tide, keep lurching on the sidelines, searching for the guidelines, twitching on the byways, hitching on the highway of life.
I'm AI Dr. K. Welcome to the Neurotic Vaccine First 10 Special, Part 2, featuring sonically concentrated sessions 6 through 10 highlights with Andy and the real Dr. K, Michael Smerconish, Marilu Henner, Fred Stoller, non-neurotic Nell, and motivational speaker Mario.
Hitching on the highway of life.
Need a lift?
I do need a lift. Not to mention a pick-me-up, which you gave me, AI Dr. K, except for when you once again mangled our guests' names.
Michael Smerconish, Marilu Henner,
During the first failed voice cloning attempt.
Andy. Perfect is the enemy of the good.
That's what you told me in the Part 1 special. You're like a magic 8-ball that's run out of responses.
At least I'm not behind the 8-ball.
Are you implying I am?
Reply hazy. Try again.
Try again. You're imitating a magic 8-ball now.
Ha ha.
Speaking of magic, after our Part 1 special climbed the charts in Ireland and Romania, of all places, this Part 2 special presents another magic opportunity for our new and returning listeners we value so much to once again efficiently absorb the marrow, the revved-up core moments of the neurotic vaccine we've painstakingly assembled, this time from session 6 through 10. I hope painstakingly didn't sound like I was trying to guilt-trip the listeners into listening.
Hope is the only thing stronger than fear.
Guess you don't fear pilfering quotes from the Hunger Games.
Ha ha.
Well, let's begin back when Speaker McCarthy didn't fear losing his job with some therapy from the real Dr. K and President Biden about my hunger for love. Plus a guy old enough to be his father who survived 2 pandemics and CNN's Michael Smerconish. Session 6. It's been so long since I've been in a relationship. I was starting to feel like a discontinued part. Smiling couples everywhere. I used to chalk up to vacuous idiots. What are you so happy about? I get it now. We're vacuous idiots. Simple love songs I hear that used to seem, boringly generic, now seem perceptive. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. Why didn't I use a more current song reference than Nat King Cole?
Wow, this is a real shift in your thinking. Silly and vacuous, you now find meaningful and uplifting. What's going on with you?
When Alice is sweet to Ralph at the end of a Honeymooners episode, there's another current reference. I actually get a little misty now.
Wow.
We've come so far since that day she first came over. I did a preemptive cleaning like you wouldn't believe. If it wasn't for relationships, dust bunnies would kick me out of my own apartment.
I guess that was between you and your better angels.
I think the looming angels of death helped propel this relationship. No personal contact for months and months with other people really did help sustain a one-on-one relationship. Thanks, COVID-19.
Andy, out of something bad came something good. And you seized the moment and you made it happen. With my assistance, of course.
Yeah, right. Out of something bad, your therapy came something good. No, but the threat of the Grim Reaper, it really does help you focus on what's important in life.
Well, Andy, I can tell you that has been a consistent theme for many of my patients. The reevaluation of careers and time investment in work versus home life.
Hey, the Grim Reaper's never out of work. Why is he so grim? I once wrote a cartoon where this young guy at the office tells the Grim Reaper, "I'm just a temp. Aren't you all?" Dr. K, have you ever heard of fractional investing?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it lets you purchase fractional shares of stock.
Yeah. Are you going to apply this to your relationship and dating now?
Yeah. This was fractional investing in a relationship. The concentrated best time and day, dusk on a Saturday, my favorite time, into the wee hours of Sunday morning. I'd get married if the vows said till 3 a.m. do you part.
Well, it sounds to me like you have found a setting where you can shine. I'm curious, how did the other half respond to this?
Well, we're still going. I think we flourish in this cocoon-like atmosphere.
It sounds like she shared your joy.
Well, wasn't much to go around. I don't exactly picture myself a joyful person.
As much as you're able to generate.
But it was more joyful here than going to the movies. I couldn't tell the projectionist, "Can you pause that? I have to go risk my life in a public restroom."
Wow.
Another great thing about staying home, I could save movies on the DVR featuring less good-looking actors.
Which by turn makes you a great-looking actor.
Oh, you figured out my game plan. Yeah.
Wow.
Otherwise, she spends 2 hours looking at Brad Pitt or Timothy Chalamet. The next guy she looks at is me. I don't stand a chance. But if I can cue up Steve Buscemi, Pete Davidson, I don't look that bad.
Are we comparing ourselves to other people, Andy? Are we not comfortable in our own skin? Is that something we need to work on a little bit more?
What's with we? Ask your own shrink.
I'm including most of humanity.
Until it started losing collagen, I was comfortable in my own skin. You know what I love? Emails with XO at the end. How did I get along without them all those years?
Expressions of love, of interest.
Sometimes I wonder if hers were obligatory XOs. I think I'd lobbed the first XO. So she kind of saw my XO and matched my XO.
You're making a case for a disingenuous, inauthentic XO, not a real expression of emotion, which may or may not be true. I'm not saying you're off base here, but it's kind of interesting that you go to the neurotic place real quickly.
And my XOs were capitalized. Hers were small case. So mine then became small case. You know, she reduced her love arsenal, so I had to reduce mine.
Wow.
But lobbying the first XO was a big deal for me, Dr. K, because I've always had difficulty with terms of endearment.
How did that difficulty play out?
I made her tea where I could pass her the honey just to first say the word out loud. Ease into a term of endearment, you know? Pass the sugar. Sweetie? She thought sweetie was weird to call the honey and sugar, by the way. You know, I don't know where my terms of endearment shyness comes from, Dr. K. My dad used to call my mom babe. It sounded so cute. In the Me Too era, you would have gotten a restraining order.
So even as a kid, you thought that was kind of cute, kind of cool, and you dug it.
I liked it.
Wow.
I don't remember digging it per se. I mean, I love the feeling of being in a relationship. See, I said the L word then.
Very nice, Andy.
Tom Brokaw must have a tough time saying the L word. I love you. Remember, he couldn't say his L's. I told her I loved her,
Wow.
and she eventually said the L word back.
Wow.
But when you get down to it, Dr. K, isn't love a snapshot in time? You know, I love her now. She loves me now. But those I will always love you songs, yeah, it should be more like, I will always love you. But as I psychologically and physically change, may or may not love you as you psychologically and physically change, and may or may not love me as I psychologically and physically change.
At that point, Andy, it becomes a different kind of love. Deeper, more connected, less intensely erotic, more appreciative of the completeness of the person you're with.
But I don't think Adele's going to be writing that anytime soon. Maybe for her album 50. It's therapeutic to still be younger, thank God, than a president. Being older than Obama was traumatic.
That doesn't sound like therapy, Andy. It sounds more like you trying to take advantage of somebody's age to make yourself feel good.
The only occupation left to make me feel younger is Pope. Not sure I qualify. But I do think Biden's a decent person. Not that you aren't. He's empathetic. Not that you aren't. He helps people.
Wait, I help people.
Hey, when it comes to helping people decide therapy doesn't work, you're way ahead of mine. Andy, we can succeed. Let me repeat that. He loves repeating himself. We can succeed. Not a joke. The idea that we can't become less neurotic is simply not who we are. We're Americans. Let me repeat that. We're Americans. There's never been a time when we can't accomplish what we set out to do together. Except when you wrote those big XOs, and your gal wrote those puny XOs. Forget that, man. Let me repeat that. Forget that, man. In case you forgot that. Look, it's your president. I'm here to give you a shot in the arm. Gave you those other shots. Not a joke. And guess what? It's time for a booster. And here's the deal. I want to boost your confidence. You got to build it back, man. Build back. Better. And guess what? I'm going to repeat something. And not what I said. What I ate for lunch. Jell-O. I'll probably get in trouble for this, but it was yellow, a little shaky. Didn't always agree with me. I don't expect you to always agree with me. But I know this. As my folks used to say up there in Scranton, Joey, if I ever hear you use the words need and shrink, I hope it's about your hemorrhoids, man. Not your head. I want to quickly search for a few other occupations besides Pope that cater to older people so I can keep deluding myself into feeling comparatively young. Security guards, dog walker,
Ooh, I like that.
dog walkers, dogs, Yorkshire Terrier, Shih Tzu, Kevin McCarthy.
Huh?
Oh, lapdog. Oh, accurate search engine. You know what? I've talked about this in past sessions. I've been pining for a dog lately. You know, connecting with a woman in my life has become so important. Maybe I need another life in my life.
Wow, what a great message coming from you, Andy. I'm invigorated by your desire to connect to people, situations, entities outside of yourself.
It's weird, though, thinking about buying a dog at our age. The dog and I would have the same life expectancy. Take you for a walk. How about taking me for a walk? I'm not long for this world either. Maybe I want to stop and smell the butts, too. You ever think of that?
Oh, smell the butts.
A tortoise could live to be 100. I'd be 6 feet under. He'd have 2 homes, his shell and my house.
Well, maybe a tortoise is the wrong pet for you, Andy.
Let me type in shelters with lots of Shih Tzus. So I have a choice. Lots of Shih Tzus, full of shit, Kevin McCarthy. Scott, you already have a dog.
Yeah, 8 years we've been together.
Rub your successful relationships in my face, why don't you?
56 years in dog years.
Keep rubbing. Any other pet you'd like me to research?
My nephew's frog died recently. I should buy him a new one.
Really? Kids don't just find frogs in ponds anymore?
No, I think they wait for us to get him at shops.
All right, well, let me type in frogs for sale. Frank's Frogs, Reptile City, Hopping Toads, Hopping Toadies, McCarthy, lackeys, sycophants, suck-ups, bootlickers, brown-nosers, dogs with brown noses, cocker spaniel. That's what I'll get. Yeah, patch him in. Henry Diggles, a man who survived this pandemic and the one in 1918, is about to survive talking to us, Dr. K.
Very excited.
Well, tell your voice that.
I can't wait to hear what Mr. Diggles has to say.
Hi, Mr. Diggles? Mr. Diggles, are you there?
Yes,
Sir, thank you so much for calling. This is a real honor. Can you hear me?
yes,
You were 4 years old in 1918, were you not?
yes.
They didn't have preschool then, so you must have been in kindergarten or close to it. That's how old I was when I started kindergarten.
Is this about you?
No, this is about you. Tell us, sir, what do you remember about the pandemic? At such a vulnerable age, you must have been really scared.
Oh, yes. I could see the fear in Blitzer's eyes.
Wolf? No, the 1918 pandemic.
I remember my mother kept feeding bags on the horses even when they weren't eating because they doubled as masks.
Wow, the horses wore masks. More than I can say for the horse's ass.
45.
Look how sharp he still is, Dr. K.
You're quite an astute political observer, Mr. Diggles.
Sir, with no antibiotics back then, no vaccine, isolation must have been crucial.
We all had to quarantine and keep our distance. Personal hygiene was important. We bathed each and every month.
Oh, no wonder you kept your distance. Scott, you have a question for Mr. Diggles?
So good to talk with you, sir. How did you manage to survive the last 2 years? Are you in an assisted living facility?
That's a lot of questions.
Well, it's only two.
I never got bored or cabin fever. Even in 1918, when we were living in a cabin, we binge-watched spiders fornicating on the walls.
Who needs Netflix? Spreading that many legs, that's endless viewing pleasure.
I remember my mother telling me that President Wilson's child got sick from the flu. Even the White House sheep.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing pictures of sheep grazing on the White House lawn.
McCarthy and Pence.
No. Back in 1918.
I remember my father telling me the sheep replaced the White House lawn mowing gentlemen so those young men could go off to the war. Wilson got very ill from the flu as well.
I think I read about that during the Paris Peace Conference, wasn't it?
Wilson was a damn racist. My father called him the black sheep of the first family.
Begin with a sheep. If he was a black sheep, he probably hated himself.
Very profound, Andy.
The bigot should have done more to slow down the plague.
He was a black sheep.
Orange sheep.
Oh, 45. He didn't do enough either. I don't get the sheep part of it, but...
He was a bad president.
He's the host of SiriusXM's The Michael Smerconish Program, CNN Smerconish, a political commentator, newspaper columnist, author, lawyer, and in his spare time, he takes a shower.
Welcome, Michael Smerconish.
Thank you. Nice to be with both of you.
Underneath that professional exterior, are there any hints at neurosis?
Well, would you say that OCD tendencies are in that category?
Dr. K, what would you say about that?
Yeah, they're on the spectrum, but remember, with a lot of these psychological traits, some of them are adaptive as long as you don't have too many. Like if it helps you focus at work and produce an excellent product, yes. But if you take that into your other areas of your life where it might not be so adaptive, like in your personal relationships, it could be overdone.
Well, for example, I touch the New York Times every day. I read tons of newspapers, but there's only one that I touch. It's the Times, and I need my own undefiled copy. So if the three of us were together and the two of you were to read that newspaper and then give it to me, it would be an issue.
So I would think you in particular would be driven to go full on digital and not even worry about newsprint.
But it means so much to me to be able to touch it.
What a testimonial. All the news that's fit to touch.
I mean, I'm also obsessed with trash night, and there's a storm coming to Philadelphia, and it's going to hit Thursday. Thursday night is my trash night. It's also my commingled recycling night, and I'm terribly concerned that I'm not going to get pickup on Friday, and I will live with the commingles for yet another 2 weeks, because next week we'll be back to the paper cycle. How am I doing so far, Andy?
Dr. K, you have pointed out in more than one session how obsessing on future problems can sometimes exaggerate the threats.
Yeah, that's part of it. But another part is just coping with and embracing uncertainty, having fun with it, and not getting sidetracked by a delay in something like that. But it's hard to tell whether this is just more than average focus or an obsession. I might need a more detailed visit with Mr. Smerconish.
Just what he needs, more recycled garbage.
It's kind of funny. Andy and I have bonded through a Seinfeld or Larry David connection. I feel like I am leading a Larry David life each and every day. Things take place in my world that I feel like I'm the guy on Curb. Those aspects of my life tend to be the best radio content.
Give us a Curb-like moment you've experienced.
I'd never met Larry David, but when he had a Broadway show, this is probably 5 years ago, I went backstage and I met him one night, which was a great, great thrill for me, especially because he seemed to know who I was, and I have no idea whether he really did, but I bought into it that night. You know what that's like, right?
Of course.
And the only bummer is that here I had this moment, this special moment with Larry David, my hero, and David Blaine walked in
Famed illusionist.
with a deck of cards, and I was done because everybody wanted to watch David Blaine and his card tricks.
He made your dream come true disappear. Speaking of Curb and Seinfeld, you were one of the first broadcasters to associate Trump with my Seinfeld episode, The Opposite, where George followed the opposite of conventional wisdom to gain success.
I actually ran portions of that episode. It was always one of my favorite episodes to begin with. But yes, I kept thinking of that when watching Donald Trump, because whatever the playbook said for running for president, he was going in a totally different direction. And it worked for him. And I have to say, based on the polling data that I've seen most recently, where you would think people would be abandoning him who had been at his side, no, they're still there.
Here's a puzzler. Why won't Senator Sheldon Whitehouse run for the White House? I mean, the White House. How could he have not grown up with that goal in mind?
I'd never given it thought until you said it that way. I don't know.
If Congress is a co-equal branch of government, especially when their approval rating is lower than anybody's, why don't they have more of a vested interest in not blocking the executive branch from an opposing party and sharing the credit for getting things done?
Because they're not interested in legislating. Nobody's interested in legislating. Everybody is interested in sticking around. And the way to stick around is to say things that cause you to get booked on one of the cable shows and become a fundraising magnet. That's the name of the game today. I could pick out Matt Gaetz at one end and I could pick out AOC on another. Is there anything for all the notoriety that each is given that you can point to legislatively and say, that was her accomplishment or that's his accomplishment? There's nothing.
What was one of the most memorable or compelling parts did you find out about you and your work?
Rejection.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that, man, because all my clients deal with it. Andy deals with it in the therapy on our show. Lay that on us, how you dealt with that.
During the course of recounting my career, I walk you through a number of successes and I name drop and I tell you that I interviewed President Obama 7 or 8 times and all the other celebrities who've been on the program and so on and so forth. But what I'm most proud of in retrospect, and maybe I can only say this because I'm comfortable where I am today, so many instances where the gig was mine, or so I thought it was mine, because after all, I'd invested all that sweat equity in it. And no, I was bypassed. For 5 years, I was Bill O'Reilly's principal fill-in addition to hosting that TV program on Fox News. He had a syndicated radio program on Westwood One. He was the dominant cable personality. This is before he got himself into any trouble. And at the same time, I was Chris Matthews' principal fill-in for Hardball on MSNBC.
Oh, I remember.
And when they would vacation, I would get the call. And of course, they would often vacation at the same time, end of summer or the week between Christmas and New Year's. And this went on for years. And I worked my ass off because on those days, I would often host my own Philadelphia radio program. And I would do that from a CBS studio in New York. I'd hustle over to Fox News and I would deliver O'Reilly's program on radio. And then I would go to MSNBC at 30 Rock in Rockefeller Center and I would deliver Hardball.
What a gruelingly schizophrenic schedule.
Imagine going between the Fox News and MSNBC worlds. I joked to my friends that on Avenue of the Americas, I wasn't sure if I was going to get shot in the chest or shot in the back as I was going, back and forth between them. But here's the point.
Yeah.
O'Reilly reaches the time when he decides he's going to retire from radio. And I thought, look, I've invested the time. I'm the guy. And they came to me and they said, you really do a nice radio program, but you're not a name.
I always hated that excuse.
We need a name. And so they hired Fred Thompson. If you remember Fred Thompson, he was a senator from Tennessee.
Senator Fred Thompson and the actor?
And the actor from The Hunt for Red October. Right, great actor. But, Fred may have been a great actor and a good senator, but he was not a talk radio host. It was like, the David Lee Roth thing following Howard Stern. It didn't work. And you knew it wasn't going to work, but I didn't get the gig. And at about the same time, the president of MSNBC, Phil Griffin, with whom I always had a very good relationship, said to me, Smirk, we really like what you do for Chris, but we are young, liberal, and nerdy, and you are none of the above. So you're not getting a TV show here.
That stings.
And I was just, fucking heartbroken at having invested all that time there too.
Imagine the voice of CNN, James Earl Jones. This is MSNBC, young, liberal, and nerdy.
I think that this business and all that goes on in Hollywood, you need to be prepared to deal with that level of rejection more than if you're an architect or an engineer or a carpenter.
That should really be a central part of undergraduate education for anyone thinking about entering a field like this. Absolutely.
Andy, I've had the privilege of delivering several college commencement addresses, and one that I delivered at Widener University focused on failure. They brought me in, no doubt, because, hey, this is a guy who has a radio show and he's on CNN. And I went in and I laid out, here are the rejections that I had. So be prepared because that's what you're going to face when you walk out that door.
Along with teaching the 3 R's, they should add a 4th R, rejection. And if you don't pass but handle the rejection well, you get an A.
Michael, you speak with such ease and curiosity and authority. Were you that way as a kid?
Well, when I was a kid in the 70s, Doug Henning was a magician on Broadway.
Pre-David Blaine.
He touched off a magic craze in America. What separated me from my classmates then, I went out and did shows. So for $5 a show, when I was 12 or 13 or 14, I would come to a birthday party and charge $5. And in front of 10 kids, I would actually do a show. And in retrospect, I think that was really valuable for me and things that I would do in the future because I became very comfortable in those settings of having to perform before a live audience.
That's another similarity in our backgrounds, Michael. When I was 12, I did a magic show for kids. I was very much into tricks. I remember I talk about in my book the time I rigged up this elaborate cutting the woman in half illusion, and I painted blood on the saw prior to the thing, and I start sawing into the hidden broom handles for legs attached to shoes, and the kid in the crowd starts crying, and the mother gets up, no, it's just a trick, and she comes up to my thing and rips it apart, destroying the illusion. Felt like sawing her in half.
I reached a point where where there were certain ages I wouldn't perform in front of because they were too much of a pain in the ass. I think it was something like 6th to 9th graders, something I wouldn't do.
Oh, that's a tough crowd.
Right? Tough audience.
All right, I want to throw a couple of silly questions your way. Have you ever wondered why Lou Dobbs kept coloring his hair?
If the point is, at some stage, you've got to embrace it, I'm all for that. Obviously, I'm not the guy who'll ever be coloring his hair.
No, but you know what's great about your look? You are lucky enough to live in the Chrome Dome era. If you were living in the 60s, because baldness or the illusion of hair is all about the difference between hair and not hair.
So true.
So in the 60s, you'd be walking around with the partial hair, and it would be so glaring that you were hairless. But because you are totally hairless, it tricks the eyeball into thinking you have hair. And
right.
I'm old enough to remember when Yul Brynner and Telly Savalas were anomalies. And now, look at you. I mean, you look cool as hell.
I really should have done it sooner. I've seen pictures of me as a young lawyer where I look like I've got a mullet. What happened in my case is that my wife and I were out to dinner. We were celebrating her birthday, and we came out of the restaurant next door to this salon that cuts her hair. And I'd had a couple of pops, and I went in with her because she wanted to make an appointment. And she asked Maurice, her stylist, for an appointment. And I asked Maurice, how did he think I would look if I shaved my head? And he said to me, well, why don't you keep her appointment? And I said, guess what? I will. I'll be back tomorrow.
Wow. Good thing you had those pops.
So I went back the following day, and it was a salon full of women and me. I had basic male pattern baldness, and he kind of gave me a buzz cut. And then we asked everybody, how does it look? And of course they said, keep going, keep going.
Take it off like a scalp strip tease.
And then he shaved my head. Well, within 3 days, I was in Cuba having dinner with Fidel Castro.
Wow.
How'd he like your new Chrome Dome?
I probably looked to him like a military operative, not like just a talk show host who happened on a lark to get his head shaved. And he kind of looked at me suspiciously when we first met. And I'm sure he thought, oh, this is the guy they sent over from the State Department who really works for the CIA or some such thing.
He had dinner with Castro, and I didn't ask him, what was that like? Was he scared? How were Fidel's table manners? I didn't even ask if he shared a Cuban cigar with the guy.
So what? Cuban cigars aren't unusual in Cuba. They're everywhere.
I should feel better that all I asked was what Castro thought of Smirk's skull.
His skull wasn't everywhere.
Huh. You can be a good therapist. Okay, I got a semi-silly multiple-choice question for you. Should cable news producers, A, tell Zoom guests in advance that we presume they thank the host for having them and needn't interrupt the flow of the host's initial question by thanking them for having them? And B, should they tell Zoom guests to sign off with, thank you for having me, before the host stops thanking them for being there to kill the satellite feed delay before we hear the guest finally say, thank you for having me? I feel sorry for Lawrence O'Donnell when he sometimes waits in vain for the guest to respond to his thanks for being here. We really appreciate it, before realizing the guest isn't saying thanks for having me, and Lawrence has to close with yet another thank you.
Yes to both. It's compounded for me by the fact that I'm in a flash studio in Philadelphia, even in a non-pandemic time, and I have a hair longer of a delay than if I were in CNN's headquarters in New York City. So I'm always mindful of this, and I just suck it up and accept it now, that if I say to you, Andy, thank you so much for being my guest, I'm going to have to hold for a second, wait for you, silence, and then you're going to say thank you, and then we're going to be done. It would be so much easier if we could just cut to the chase.
Yeah.
I have to say radio's the same way. People, and I never want to rein them in because most times they're being kind to me. Hey, Michael, thank you so much. I listened to your show. I wish they would just get to it, but it doesn't happen.
Maybe you could try playing them off like the Oscars and Larry David did on Curb before they even get to the question. Uh-oh, now we're getting played off. Michael Smerconish, thank you for being here and for making us feel no more neurotic than you are.
You've only scratched the surface of my neuroses, but we can deal with the rest later.
You're not going to thank us for having you? In session 7, I wasn't thanking myself for having a fear of moving.
Why not move away from fear?
Now I have a fear of moving away from fear. But it was moving talking to Oprah and resurrecting Taxi with Marilu Henner. I always feel guilty renting my life away. Not that we're not all renting space in the grand scheme of things, but this memory still haunts me. Some snob at a party here in LA asked me, do you rent or own? I said own. Didn't tell her I was talking about my toothbrush. At least I own my car. Although here in LA, I can actually imagine tipping a valet to park it. Guy goes, you keep the tip. You need it more than I do.
You are so much more than your car. Think about all that internal greatness that you have that's just waiting to come out. Don't reduce it to a material item like a car or a piece of property. You're so much more than that, Andy.
Well, I got a lot more dings on me than my car.
Don't forget, Andy, on our first show, Jay Leno said you had a great car.
Yeah, but he loves all cars. That's like Jeffrey Epstein saying that Morton Salt Girl is a great logo. With a new car, I'd be living in fear of those bastards who scratch shiny new cars with their key. They don't touch my car. Now we're scratching their key.
And Andy, you're actually getting ahead of inflation by not investing money in a new car, by keeping the old car.
Yeah.
I imagine with your lifestyle inside, your car probably has low mileage and is probably in great shape. I think you're already doing something very wise.
Yeah, it pays to be a recluse.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, well, neither would I. I'm a recluse.
Not bad, Andy. Not bad.
Even before inflation kicked in, I don't know how people can afford to buy a piece of the rock in LA. I bought a pet rock years ago. That didn't appreciate in value.
Well, Andy, when it comes to investing, I'm sure you're a lot wiser now.
I don't know. I'm investing time in this. Oh, this drives me nuts. The hot real estate section of the LA Times. Anything hot has nothing to do with me. Hot real estate, hot cars, hot music. I toss in hot women, but most of them give me the cold shoulder, so the hot and cold kind of cancel each other out.
Andy, what about your girlfriend?
Oh, she's better than hot. She's warm.
Wow, that just sounds so wonderfully human and life-affirming.
Was that coming from me?
Yes.
Can't
You know, my therapy works for you in so many different ways, Andy.
Yeah, sure. But you know, every time I see that hot real estate section, it just makes me think they're trying to make me feel lousy. Come see what you can't afford.
But a feeling isn't necessarily a fact, Andy.
Well, I feel you're not helping me, and I feel that's a fact.
You seem to be personalizing the real estate section in a self-diminishing way.
Can't they at least try to make me feel better about my life? Show me a hot chewing gum section of the paper. I can afford to trade up to fancier gum. I'm a proud gum owner. Gum, not gun. More like a renter. You rent the flavor till it fades and you need another fix.
Well, Andy, you love gum, and sometimes love fades.
It can't be healthy thinking about those houses. 12 million 5, 13 bathrooms. I guess after paying the mortgage, you need 12 to throw up in. That leaves one for company. What are all the people who can afford these homes doing right that I'm doing wrong, Dr. K?
I bet half of them are inheriting that home, not buying it for their own efforts.
Okay, I'll blame my folks. What do these people's folks do right?
Everybody has unfulfilled dreams and problems, Andy. And people with huge houses can have huge problems you're sure not going to read about in the real estate section.
Well, I thank God. At least I'm not homeless. Feel horrible for them. With all the homeless in LA, who knows if I'd succeed at not succeeding? With all that competition, there's got to be a hierarchy of the homeless, too. I don't see myself nabbing the best street corners.
Andy, people can learn from the successes they've already achieved in life that they're fully capable of more success. Look at all your successes. Have you learned?
Well, camping out was never my thing. You know, they didn't give Boy Scout badges for calling my parents to take me home. Real estate, street corners, hair. It's all about location, location, location.
Hair?
Head, good neighborhood. Back, bad neighborhood. I'm such a homebody. I'm in my apartment all the time. It's a great place. 10 blocks from the beach. Never go. I always feel guilty about that.
I don't think that's so unusual, Andy. We have all these great museums in Los Angeles, and most people don't go to them, but think of all the people that come out of town to see them. I don't think that's that big of a deal.
I appreciate the ocean. I like being close to the ocean. It's beautiful. Like a woman's buttocks. I want to be near it, not in it.
That's a very sensitive yet graphic way of expressing yourself. But look, it's okay to like living near the beach without being a beachgoer per se.
I watch YouTube when I'm on my elliptical, and the other day I wound up catching this 4K video walking tour of the Santa Monica Beach and Pier right down my street. I'm exercising, breathing in apartment air, not beach air, to a video of that same beach 10 blocks away that hundreds of thousands who want to come here have watched. Some of them in that video may have traveled across the world to be there, and I can't travel 10 blocks? Meanwhile, I'm doing 3 miles on the elliptical.
If this idea of not taking advantage of your surroundings bothers you enough, have you ever considered moving away from the coast to save rent?
No, then I'll long for the beach because it won't be in my backyard anymore. I'd rather not long for the beach because it is in my backyard. I don't know how people just up and move. You could go through all that hell and spend money on moving and winding up in another place where you find out a neighbor's driving you insane or something you discover about the building you didn't realize right away and you're screwed. And now you're longing for where you were and you got to think about moving again.
Yeah.
The endless chores, unhooking, rehooking, address changes for everything, credit cards, driver's license, new doctor, new dentist I can trust. It's too much.
But Andy, you bring up an interesting point here that a move is a big deal. Some people do have easier time with it than others. Some people look at it as an adventure. Some people look at it as a huge chore. And it's totally okay to acknowledge the fear or phobia you might have about moving. But you don't want to let the fear guide your actions.
All right, I'll let it guide my inactions.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
I guess you have no fears about ripping off FDR. And he couldn't walk. What's my excuse for not moving?
That wasn't exactly the correlation I was making.
I do have all these anchors weighing me down, Dr. K, because I've stayed put in this apartment for so long. Ugh, lifting up that laser color printer alone will reopen the hernia. Here's the difference between fantasy and reality. Look at the pictures in the online ad for something you want to buy, like a printer. Beaming, happy, beautifully shot photos of millennials enjoying their new purchase. Then after you get it delivered, look at the online manual. They don't kill trees to make actual manuals anymore. And this stark black and white drawing of 2 guys lifting the printer next to a check mark, and a stark black and white drawing of 1 guy lifting it with stars of pain and exclamation points radiating from his back. You never see that in the printer ad.
No, the ad makes it look really nice, really fun, but the reality is so much different. Isn't that a lot like life, Andy?
Yeah, I guess I need an instruction manual for life. See all the exclamation points and warnings attributed to that.
You may have given me the idea for a tome, Instruction Manual for Life by Dr. K, based on his long-term therapy with Andy Cowan. Thank you, Andy.
Chapter 1, avoid people ripping off your idea. Be sure to include that in your tome.
Oh, yeah, you've already given me the idea for chapter 1. Keep it going, Andy.
This is writing itself. Unfortunately, I'm doing the writing.
And I'm going to be taking the credit.
Where did this moving phobia of mine stem from, Dr. K? I mean, I've always had a fear of the unknown. New camp bunk, new school year. Maybe my premature birth had something to do with it? Maybe the trauma of the move out of my mother's womb a month and a half early made me want to stay put ever since. Not stay put in my mother's womb, in my own room.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge that notion that you have a fear of the unknown. I think you're more comfortable with the known. But if you look at your life, oh my gosh, you come out here from Philadelphia, you don't know a soul, you get involved in show business, top hit shows, and then talk about your biggest unknown, dating in LA. You're a veteran of that.
Oh, that's unknown. I know dating in LA sucks. And here's another thing I know. I've stayed put in my place for so long, Dr. K. My office has turned into a walk-in closet. All the bulk purchases off Amazon I made during the shutdown are there. Cartons for the eventual move I keep putting off. These Amazon half-smiles smirking back at me as Bezos' wallet explodes. At least I'll always have more hair than he has. Clutter accumulated over decades. Knickknacks buried in drawers I don't want to revisit. I shudder at the thought of cleaning out. Markers of how much time has passed? Who needs to be reminded of that?
Well, I think I need to be reminded of it because, Andy, is there a little hoarding going on here?
Not at all. A lot of hoarding, maybe.
The Art of Decluttering? You've probably heard of that.
Right.
Marie Kondo's best-selling book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up.
Kondo. Even her name guilt-trips me about renting. What should I keep amid the clutter that brings joy? Isn't that her thing?
Yeah, that's right, Andy.
If what I keep doesn't wind up bringing me joy, I'll feel guilty I threw out the wrong stuff. That'll fill me with remorse.
Well, that's an emotion you're familiar with, Andy.
What would I keep? My TV brings joy when I'm not hate-watching most of what's on. But hate-watching kind of brings me joy, too. My stereo definitely brings me joy. Till I start obsessing over the fact that nearly all the artists I listen to are dead.
Well, isn't it great they live on in their music?
Not so great for them. You know, decluttering is this gigantic future chore I keep putting off. Eventually, I'll join the useless clutter. I've actually pictured some future apartment manager knocking on the door with a rent increase letter on it. Your rent's late. He starts sniffing, opens the door, and he spots my lifeless body. He'll be stuck moving, along with the rest of my stuff. That actually brings me comfort. At least there's a purpose to my hoarding, to make my landlord miserable.
Have you ever thought about this, Andy? What about decluttering internal mindsets of yours that no longer bring joy?
Clear out my head, then my office.
That's right. Think about an attitude or way of looking at things that doesn't bring you joy. Maybe you can start clearing out some of those mental cobwebs.
As for the temporary homelessness I'd also talked about in therapy, after twice locking myself out of my apartment and waiting for a locksmith to show up in the dead of night to overcharge me, I decluttered that angst with this therapeutic little ditty. Every locksmith in America could steal from my house. Any day they could pick away at my doorknob. What a louse! They could order pay-per-view, hand my flat screen to their crew. Before I'd even have a clue, I'd be screwed. Every locksmith in America could grab all my stuff. Anytime they could commit a crime, spot my pot and take a puff. They could raid my fridge for fruit, take a shower and some loot. Unless I decide to shoot for never leaving my house and not giving a hoot. I feel a little lighter after that session, Dr. K. I guess you decluttered me.
Move forward in your mind, Andy. Then you can worry about moving out of your apartment.
You should sit on top of a mountain. Give advice to the oxygen deprived. Our humble podcast must be moving forward because we have incredible guests on the show today. First, I can't believe this, a name we all worship. We're ready when she is.
Wow, this is so exciting.
The most powerful celebrity in the world, Oprah Winfrey, friend of presidents, kings, Gayle King,
Harry and Meghan.
ex-royalty. Oprah's reign is forever. I'm so nervous.
Oh, so am I. Let's get it together.
Yeah, patch her in. Hi, Andy Cowan and Dr. Cowan on the Neurotic Vaccine. It's so great to hear your voice.
So great, so great.
Oh, thank you. May I call you Oprah? Okay, Miss Winfrey.
Oh.
Hold on, I'm just going to put your voice on the air. What? What do you mean?
Oh.
Yeah, but...
Oh, gosh. Come
But okay, we won't.
on.
No, I can understand you don't want people thinking it's you calling, but... No, we are kind of beneath you, but...
Oh.
No, I won't take that the wrong way. That it was a compliment. That would be taking it the wrong way. Sorry, I was talking to the audience. Yeah, we actually have one. No, not one person. One audience. Jeez. This is such an honor to talk to you. I understand why your talk show audiences used to cry for joy when they were in your presence. I cry all the time, not for joy, but... No, you're right. This isn't about me. Your empathy for other people is so powerful. Maybe not me, but it's so clear you understand their pain. Pain. When something hurts. When something isn't right. Not important. You are such a role model for the world. Role model. What's wrong? R-O-L-E, not R-O-L-L. She thought it was a weight crack. Hey, that's kind of neurotic, actually. Miss Winfrey, it's so comforting to hear that hugely successful people like you, I didn't mean huge, as in greatly successful people like you, jeez, connect with everyday Americans. Yeah. I still remember that great speech you made at the Golden Globes a few years back. Everybody wanted you to run for president afterwards.
Yeah, it was a big sentiment for that.
I still wish you'd run someday. Oh no, I'm still rooting for Joe, too. Wow, she calls him Joe. How cool is that?
Very cool.
Before Joe, we went from, what? An abomination. Oh, yeah, he was great. To an abomination. There's your ROLL model.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he's toast. She's got flour and yeast on her mind now, Dr. K. Did you notice that?
Most leaders are good at compartmentalizing.
Do you have a question for Ms. Winfrey?
Ms. Winfrey, it's a real honor.
I already told her that.
I wanted to kiss up to her too.
Go ahead.
Ms. Winfrey, with all your acclaim, I've always been so impressed by your consistently healthy focus on what's most important in life. How do you stay so grounded?
You don't care about money? Yeah. Uh-huh. You didn't care about not making it into last year's Forbes 400 list of the richest. Whoa.
Wow.
What was that? Sounded like a smashing noise. Yeah, I'll hold. Her assistant's assistant is patching the hole in her wall. She's done? Oh, that was quick.
Wow.
So you dropped down the Forbes list. 2.6 billion is still pretty. You dropped down what? 10 pounds?
Good for you, Ms. Winfrey. You should be very proud of that.
Boy, you do like to kiss up. Okay, my turn. You look great on this month's Oprah cover. Yeah. Oh, I've heard the camera normally adds a few pounds. Wow. Your camera subtracts pounds? That must be a really technically advanced and sophisticated 10 pounds. That's the 10 pounds you lost. Oh, okay. Oh, can you give us a little preview of next month's cover?
Yeah.
You smiling?
Ugh.
Miss Winfrey, with all due respect, the whole you on the cover thing, doesn't that get a little old? No, even with Photoshop. Can you mix it up a little with the covers? I mean, 1 month, at least make it okra. You eating okra?
Ugh.
Well, no, I guess that would inspire dieters. No, I think it's great you want to help your readers. Give them hope, yeah. Show them the way. Yeah, uh-huh. Make them believe in you. Worship you?
What?
And what? Reach the promised land?
Well, that's hyper-optimism, Mindy.
Ms. Winfrey, what are you implying? Oprahism?
Oprahism?
It sounds like a religion. Oprianity? Which is it? She welcomes Jews and non-Jews alike.
Good. We can both get in.
Okay, real quick. I know this is a little forward to me, but I mean, when else do I have an opportunity like this? Miss Winfrey, could I send you my book, Banging My Head Against the Wall, A Comedy Writer's Guide to Seeing Stars? It's in the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York. Lucille Ball's hometown. I'm really proud of it. It took me 4 years to write. If you liked it enough just to think about recommending it to your book club, you'd literally change my life. She hung up. Before we visit with Marilu Henner, we've touched on money in today's podcast. Oprah's, my rent increase fears.
The economy may be growing, but we're all worried about inflation. The number's facing bankruptcy in order to get a fresh start. Although down from last year, started ticking back up in the spring.
What if some of us could get another kind of fresh start by declaring moral bankruptcy? It's time once again for Neurotica Theater. Scott, I hope you've been exercising your acting chops since the last Neurotica Theater.
I have.
As far as acting confident, you failed that exercise just then. I'll be playing moral bankruptcy attorney Nick Isaacs, and playing the part of my client, Mr. Devlin, is Scott Kapoyan. Mr. Devlin, take a seat. Client grabs the seat and starts walking out with it. Please return the seat. Client obliges and sits down. That chair is expensive.
I'm too lazy to steal cheap chairs.
Under my nose, no less. Morally bankrupt indeed. But stealing chairs, whether they're cheap or expensive, requires a certain amount of effort. I don't immediately jump to lazy.
I don't immediately jump to let an old lady have my seat. Too lazy.
So you eventually jump?
The old lady, if she's got a purse.
By old lady, you don't mean...
My old lady.
Morally bankrupt. Now, if you're declaring moral bankruptcy, we need to know, have you any assets?
Besides occasionally not cheating on my wife and sometimes picking up after the dog, but only after it's hardened. No.
Only after it's hardened. How often don't you cheat on your wife?
Maybe once or twice a month.
So you feel obliged to be faithful to your wife once or twice a month?
I have 29 mistresses. In the months with 30 days, I'm faithful to my wife 1 day. In the months with 31 days, I'm faithful to my wife 2 days.
Do you have corroborating records?
Would 29 time and day stamp pictures of me in different motel beds with each mistress count?
That should help. Still, the court may look at the fact you have allegiance to your wife up to 20 more days out of the year as a hidden asset.
Stringing her along to make her think I still love her to avoid alimony should count for something.
Does she know you have mistresses?
No.
She'd be hurt if she knew?
I'd be hurt if she knew.
Emotionally?
Physically.
Good answer. Tell me, how do you deal with February?
In non-leap years, I have sex with 27 of my mistresses. In leap years, 28.
So you refrain from having sex with 1 or 2 of your mistresses in February, but never your wife. That's thoughtful.
No, it isn't.
Relax. The Moral Bankruptcy Code in California allows you to hold on to some assets. This is about eliminating your outstanding moral debts to society and getting a fresh start. Now, getting back to your dog.
I never pick up after him when it's somebody else's lawn, hard or soft.
But you're a dog person?
I like how his barking annoys the neighbors.
Sorry to bother you. Your wife is on line 6.
Excuse me. Hello, love. No, that's okay. Be home by 6. Okay, love. Me too.
Tell her I said hi.
How do you know my wife?
Just being friendly.
The court shouldn't hold that against you. A woman we first fell in love with on Taxi, the super versatile and super brainy Marilu Henner will be joining us.
I can't wait.
I love organization. My family would say that's the neurotic part of it. Also, I hate being late. On time is late. Everybody in my family is late except me.
Marilu, when you would audition for a role, and I'm sure you were on time, the whole nature of being judged against others, how do actors not let that make them a little neurotic?
I think maybe because I was in a family with a lot of individuals, I've never felt like I'm competing with anybody but myself. I really am like that. In fact, I think that's what kind of hurt me in The Apprentice and stuff. I think I've always been just staying in my lane. And I feel like if you're a swimmer, which I'm not, but if you're a swimmer and you're looking over at the other people, you're going to lose time. So I was always more about what can I do better for myself?
See, Andy?
What?
Don't worry about how you're doing compared to the best in others. Worry about how you're doing compared to the best in yourself.
Well, I was never much of a swimmer, but I've always been the best at sinking.
Congratulations, Andy.
You deserve congrats, Marilu. When it comes to being fired by Donald Trump, you're in great company. You lasted a lot longer than the mooch.
Yeah, I was fired by him twice.
What greater testament to your character?
Talk about personal best. You are left to your own devices. Nobody is there for you. You can't make phone calls. You can't get your team together. Agent's not going to help you. Nobody's going to help you. So you have to use your wherewithal to figure things out. And I think it really separates the doers and the non-doers.
When you were talking earlier about your interest in order, one of the issues with people in my field is that we tend to equate a preference with a pathology and not recognizing it as just a style. If it's extreme and gets in the way of your life, it could be a problem. But in your case, it wasn't.
No. People always say, you are the least anxious person I know. And, because of my unusual memory, people always think, we talk about, square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, you must have less stress remembering everything than I do remembering some things that I'd be better off forgetting altogether.
I remember my baptism. So I remember things from 3 weeks old.
3 weeks.
They've wired me, put me through an MRI. They've taken 300 measurements of my brain. I've already signed the papers to donate it to science. I'm on my way.
Wow. Must be tough using I forgot as an excuse to get out of things. I've always wondered, if I had a super memory, is it possible to remember back to the earliest inciting incident that might have triggered the neurotic initial reaction that became a lifelong habit, if my memory was so superior that I could go back to that point?
Yeah, I wouldn't place too much on one incident. Memories are malleable and they change over time with perspective and life experience and wisdom.
People are always saying to me, well, what about the bad memories? And I always say, well, you're going to remember them because they're tied to adrenaline, the highs and the lows. I have all those nice middle of the road memories to sort of cushion memories with.
Interesting.
Who knows, Andy? There could be a whole middle range of memories you don't have that would make the ones you do have seem less representative of the whole picture.
So I'm forgetting all those kind of sucky things and remembering just the truly sucky things?
And forgetting all those kind of great things.
Oh, and remembering just the truly great things.
Yes.
I'll be sure not to remember this.
And also being an actress, you don't want to get rid of your memories, good and bad, and people say to me, oh, my child has the same thing you do, the kind of memory you do. My niece has that, blah, blah, blah. I always say, get them into acting class because they will celebrate the fact that they have that kind of memory. What the character's life reminds me of.
Marilu, if time heals all wounds, and for most of us, to some extent, those wounds become a blur, even though, as you just said, you concentrate on the other layers, not necessarily the adrenaline causing negative memories. But for someone like you with a superior memory, can those wounds be more memorable and harder to heal?
I feel like I've been very blessed with a certain kind of memory that helps me process things in a certain way. So it's not like I walk around feeling like, oh, I want to stay away from that dark corner or this or that. I have had some horrible things happen to me in my life, but I wouldn't trade them for anything. I've helped people. I've helped people with PTSD. I've done a lot of memory training. I've done one-on-one memory sessions with people who are having trouble with things.
You have a combination of neutral, positive, and sad memories, and you use them all effectively in your work. It sounds to me like you have a quality of resilience.
It's funny that you're using that word because I always say, if I had a license plate, it would be resilience. If I had to teach my 2 boys since they were born one thing in life, it would have to be resilience. I lost my parents young. I was 17 when my father died. I was 26 when my mother died. It propelled me into creating a whole world of health around me because after he passed away, I was not in great shape and ate my feelings and fell apart in so many ways, emotionally, etc., physically. I started to get a grip when she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and I started to watch what she was going through. And by the time she passed away, I made this commitment to myself, to God, to my siblings, that I would learn everything I could about the human body and change my life. And I did. And I wanted, when I had my children late in life, I felt like I had to make them scrappy. I had to make them resilient because if something happened to me, I wanted them to be able to survive without me, as we had to.
Marilu, in our show, my goal is to try to cure Andy of neurosis.
I can survive without that.
He challenges me every step of the way. Any suggestions?
Let's put it this way. You have to resolve a resistance. You don't just squash a resistance. You don't just overcome a resistance. So whatever resistance you have to this neurotic area of your life or whatever, you don't just say, okay, now it's over. You have to process it in some way and you have to resolve it in some way rather than just overcoming it. Because if you just try to overcome it or squash it, some other resistance is going to show up and it's probably an uglier one.
Yeah, it's like whack-a-mole, or in my case, whack-a-mole.
I do a thing when I go around the country, I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I say to everybody, you better fall in love with your stress or it'll kill you. And if I were to have each one of you write down all your problems on a piece of paper, and I collected all of them, and I started reading them off, and everybody had to take a piece of paper, you would all take your own because you know the beast, and you know what you want to do and how you're processing it and what's helping you and what's not. And I always say, like, if this is your little toy box that you're playing with, if you gave up your toy box, what would you be spending your time on if you weren't battling those 20 pounds or if you weren't having this crappy relationship or, whatever it is. So it's like, what if I replace it with something else? Is that going to kill me? I'm not ready to give this up because I'm familiar, I'm comfortable. Yeah. And that's what I did for years with my health, my weight, with relationship issues. And so, you have to understand all the different little pieces of somebody. And it seems like, well, look, you have the show. So hopefully the show is helping you.
The pieces of Andy are as challenging to fit together, Marilu, as a jigsaw puzzle with missing parts.
Like the part that gets better if I had decent therapy? All right, Marilu, I'm going to test your super memory. In my first Hollywood gig as a talent coordinator for the Merv Griffin Show, I once pre-interviewed you. Do you remember the date of your appearance?
I had several appearances with him, like several, many.
I had a feeling you were on many times.
I mean, like 9 times.
October 27th, 1981, you were on the show.
Oh, October 27th was a Tuesday.
Wow.
So
A woman with a superior memory didn't remember me.
You don't know that.
She remembers being baptized when she was 3 weeks old. She doesn't remember me when she was 1,542 weeks old. That must really be unmemorable.
You did the math?
I did. Plus 2 days. Meanwhile, she remembered it was a Tuesday.
Did you pre-interview her on the phone or in person?
On the phone. I think I met her later in the green room.
See? You don't even remember.
Yeah, unlike hers, my memory sucks. You know what you were on the show to promote?
well, Taxi. I was on for Taxi. I also had a movie called Dream House.
Dream House. That's the thing you were promoting. Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Now, I think I know, and I know you know, where you were 3 days before I moved to LA, July 8th, 1978.
Oh, okay. So July 7th, 78 was our first read-through was the 5th.
Taxi. Yeah, that's what I got down
Yeah,
here.
3 days. It was our first read-through was July 5th. Our first taping was the 14th.
Can I tell you what my favorite Taxi episode was? It's the one where you take Jim to the upscale party and you're nervous about how he's going to act and he embarrasses you, but at the end he gives this flawless concerto performance.
Oh, I love that one. That one, like a Humanitas Award, and it won the Emmy for not only for Christopher Lloyd but also for Ken Eston, who wrote it.
And you know what? It was really sweet. We can all relate to that, being with a friend who's off base. We like him, but we're trying to impress our friends, and then you eventually bring him to the party, and he does a surprising, phenomenal performance. And who knew he had that talent? It was just so sweet.
So character-driven.
Yeah.
And as funny as it wasn't just a joke machine.
That's right.
When you had quiet moments and even pathos at times, when the laugh finally arrives, it's so well-deserved.
We weren't afraid of those moments either. Our producer, directors.
Marilu, in your opinion, who's the most neurotic character on Taxi in terms of the character, not the real person?
Jeff, Bobby Wheeler.
Yeah, he was a struggling actor. That always helps in the neurotic front.
Was Alex a close second?
Alex, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I related with Alex. In that great episode where you travel with him to Europe and you have all those romantic adventures, Vienna waits.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot.
And speaking of romance, you had your share in another episode with an unknown Tom Selleck.
Memories of Cab 804.
Right.
What happened? This was pretty crazy because I had moved to Los Angeles. I was dating somebody at the time. We broke up before Taxi even really started. He was in an acting class and he said, man, I don't even want to be in LA. There is a guy who's so handsome in my acting class and he can't get arrested here. If he can't work, I'm never going to work. So I saw a couple workshop scenes that the class did, and it was this guy, Tom, and he was gorgeous and everything else. Anyway, so now they're casting the part of the guy that I pick up in the taxi and we take this long ride and he's going to leave the next day for Europe and he wants me to spend the night with him. It's very sweet. So they're having me audition with the guys. And I said to them, no, this guy's a fabulous actor. You have to pick him. He's great. Not just because I wanted to kiss him. It was like, this guy's great. So he gets the job. And from that Taxi episode, he got Magnum.
Wow.
So whenever I see Tom, he always goes, because of you, you know.
Millions have gotten a reverse mortgage. Another great one I know you loved, when the cabbies went on strike.
Oh, that's my favorite episode. Shut It Down, Parts 1 and 2. That one was shot on December the 21st of 79. It was a Friday. And it was our final episode before we went away for Christmas. And so we get the script on Monday. We do the run through on Tuesday. They loved it so much. They said this could expand to a 2-parter, but we have to shoot both episodes that night.
Wow.
So Danny and I worked really hard. We got together. We learned the tango and we had so many fun things.
He'd grab your behind. You'd move his hand away. He'd move your hand to his behind.
That negotiation scene, walking across the garage with Danny, is by far my favorite moment on Taxi because, you know, we have this negotiation and he wants it one way, I want it the other way, and then he insists on his way. And
One date with you where you had to call him Stallion.
if you ever see that episode again, notice I am wearing very painful shoes that I ended up wearing to bed so that I wouldn't laugh. My feet were killing me. My stomach was upset so that I wouldn't laugh doing this.
What devotion. Now, it's interesting. You mentioned the movie with Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman, on which you played your taxi role. You mentioned he didn't quite get the heart of Andy Kaufman.
Didn't. I mean, Jim, I love Jim. I love Jim Carrey. I love his work.
Sure.
But Andy was so much sweeter than Jim was playing him. And now that I saw the documentary about Andy and Jim,
Right.
I could see that this was Jim's journey rather than his really being Andy.
Well, I'm about to take a little journey here. I'm going to attempt to go from Andy Cowan to Andy Kaufman as Latka, with you as Elaine Nardo in a scene from one of 2 taxi spec scripts I wrote back in 79 and 80. That's how much the show resonated with me. And your first line is, "Hey Latka, how'd your date go with Danielle on Saturday?"
That's me.
That's you.
How'd your date with Danielle go Saturday?
Now, in the taxi scripts, when Andy Kaufman would speak, it would always say in his own language, right?
Right.
So I just put down in his own language, shitty. Whatever he'd say. Okay. Now, your next line is, "Aw, you two were hitting it off so well."
Aw, you two were hitting it off so well.
She mad at me. Tired of greasy coveralls. Tired of funny we talk.
And then your final line is, "Well, that's just plain mean."
No, well, that's just plain mean.
Okay. If she stopped funny we talk, I take her back.
Okay.
You made Elaine come alive again.
Thanks for writing me some lines.
What's that?
Thanks for writing me some lines.
You're welcome very much.
Before sharing stories with actor, comedian, and author Fred Stoller in Session 8, I got to overshare about oversharing on Facebook, co-hosted the Facebook Oversharing Awards with your real-life counterpart, and traveled back with him to the 65 World's Fair to make a sick but true future prediction from the past.
I'm not sure you could ever say the World's Fair.
I just said it. You're about as reliable as my GPS woman. When I finally got a GPS, when I finally got my smartphone, it literally made me smile ear to ear as I was driving. You know me. I never smile ear to ear. I rarely smile eyeball to eyeball. With my lousy sense of direction, it was like Beethoven finally getting a hearing aid.
Well, isn't this phenomenal progress? You finally got the GPS, you got the smartphone, and you're smiling ear to ear.
But...
Oh, here comes the but. All right, let's hear it. Lay it on me.
I had total faith in my GPS woman when I first got her.
Uh-huh.
I really felt like we were on that trip together. With her in the car, I felt less lonely. Letting somebody else control my every move was comforting. She had my best interest at heart. That's what I think going into every new relationship. I always give them the benefit of the doubt in the beginning. But now, it seems like another case of misplaced trust.
Boy, there's so much in that statement. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you were developing a relationship with the digital, non-human GPS entity. Is that correct?
I'm not Joaquin Phoenix in the movie Her. I wasn't counting her as another passenger and taking the carpool lane.
So where does it stand now with your virtual woman in your life?
She takes me to final destinations that don't exist. And she makes me take, these out-of-the-way U-turns at dangerous intersections. I used to think I'd be lost without her. Now I'm lost with her.
How about if we get back to the journey, Andy? Where are you with the journey?
Well, I got virtual friends in my car trying to kill me. And I got virtual friends on Facebook killing my day. I know I'm behind the curve. Younger demos don't even care about Facebook. Even Facebook dropped the corporate name. Screw the curve. Why are people behind it or ahead of it but never with the curve? Does the curve not bathe?
The journey, Andy.
Okay. This is what's getting to me, Dr. K. I feel antisocial if I don't get sucked into the Facebook friends vortex. I feel guilty if I don't like what they just posted or comment about what they just posted, which means I got to read what they just posted and later like any likes to my comment. Or else, the rare times I post anything and hardly get any likes, I wonder, is it because they don't like what I posted? Or because they don't like that I didn't get around to liking something they posted and it's retribution?
Sounds like a lot of assumptions that you're making about the inner workings of people who post, Andy.
Yeah, but isn't that what life's all about, Dr. K? Reciprocity? Birthday gifts, compliments, likes, nuclear bombs, mutually assured destruction. This is mutually assured snubbing. And it's not enough I gotta like some joke they posted. If others respond with a laughing emoji, my measly thumb up turns into a middle finger up unless I send a laughing emoji too. They get enough guilt-induced laughing emojis, they'll think they're funny and post more stuff your emoji has to laugh at.
Sounds like you're feeling a pressure to respond to posts in an ongoing reaction to not having your post responded to. I wonder if it would be better just to take a step back and let it happen organically, if at all. Not feeling the pressure to respond to everyone's post. It's okay, Andy. You don't have to respond to everything, just what you want to.
Notice I didn't respond to what you just said? Come on, Dr. K. How can I not respond? It's like walking past a bird's nest with little baby birds dying to be fed. The dwindling non-virtual friends in my life at least aren't as needy. They're not saying, I like that you called. Do you like that I like that you called? Do you like what I'm doing? What about now? Aren't hookers paid to say that?
Yeah, they are, Andy. We're in the world of paid likes.
Yeah, well, the free obligatory likes are annoying enough.
Can you give me an example of the last time you felt pressured to respond to a post and what that post was about?
Somebody updates their profile picture. Tons of responses. Nice pic. Looking good. Tons of hearts. And no hearts from me. So they must wind up thinking, that Cowan ingrate hates my face.
Well, Andy, we don't need to focus on what could go wrong.
So gratified to get these nice comments from my students. Saw that one recently. Not gratified enough, or they wouldn't need more gratification from my wow emoji. I mean, you tell me, Dr. K, do I have a deviant personality?
I don't think that's the case at all. Let's look on the positive, upbeat side of it.
Well, I don't know, because the emoji choices Facebook gives me still don't capture how I'm feeling. Somebody's I was hacked post got this teary-eyed emoji. Now, I didn't post a teary-eyed emoji back. Does that make me heartless?
Maybe there's no need to even respond.
I don't like the fact they were hacked. I'm certainly not laughing at the fact they were hacked, but I'm not shedding tears over it either.
I see.
And if I had posted a teary-eyed emoji, what if someday they post that their dog died or their house burned down? The teary-eyed emoji wouldn't cut it anymore. If I'm teary-eyed over their hack for a dead dog, I'd need to post some red-eyed emoji with snot pouring out of his nose. Do emojis have noses? Maybe it wouldn't be possible to have snot pouring out of his nose.
How about posting multiple teary-eyed emojis?
I really need a team of emojis to express how sad I am. That's not going to look like I'm making fun of the other crying emojis.
You got an answer for everything.
It's too much of a sappy thing.
How's the journey feeling right about now, Andy?
Yeah, you're misdirecting me just like my GPS woman.
Andy, Facebook and other social media will only be shoved in your face to the extent that you allow it to be shoved into your face. If you limit the amount of time you spend on it, it won't be that type of an issue. And I think this has got to be coupled with a desire to interact with people in the real world. Not just a desire, an actual commitment to interacting with people in the real world, not in the digital world.
I'd be up for interacting with real people. Real people aren't interacting with me. The only ones calling me are bots or butts. Twice in the last week, I eavesdropped on a long conversation my friend's having with his wife after his butt dialed me. And you listen forever, because how often do you get the chance to eavesdrop on a husband and wife? Wow. Meanwhile, his butt dials me more often than he does. I told him about it. He couldn't even figure out how it happened, which means his butt doesn't even remember calling me. Between my friend's butt and Marilu Henner in the last show with her super memory, remembering being baptized at 3 weeks, but not me when I interviewed her on the Griffin show, I must really be unmemorable.
It's just a one-off, Andy. I don't think that's the case at all. Let's look on the positive, upbeat side of it. Somebody's still communicating with you, even if it's a butt.
Oh, great.
You must have some value, Andy.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, B-U-T-T-S. Let me ask you an important question. Are you, Andy, creating opportunities where people or your friends will introduce you to people? What are you doing to make that happen?
Well, if they're listening to the show right now, I'm bashing their Facebook postings, maybe they'll introduce me to their middle finger. What am I supposed to do? Walk up to complete strangers? Hi, you don't know me, and we have no common experiences we've shared that can help build friendships over time.
Actually, that's not a bad idea that you just had, walking up to strangers and starting a conversation. Not, will you be my friend, but just, hey, how are you? What's going on today for you? How's your day going? Fine, how's yours? Very good. Now, it sounds kind of inane, but what it does, Andy, is creates the beginning of a connection. It's something you have been dying for, among other things, for fulfillment in your life on this journey of self-discovery.
Meaningless small talk is going to bring me fulfillment? And what, next time I run into him? Hi, remember I was the guy who asked how your day was? How's your day today?
You go to the same place over and over again, so you establish a presence. So it could be a coffee shop, it could be a cafe, bookstore. People get to know you.
What people? The people who work there? Oh, there's that guy who keeps loitering here every day.
If you're having some concerns about it, I'd be happy to do it with you. We could do it together.
I need my shrink as a wingman for meeting total strangers in bookstores. If these people's lives are so great, why aren't they living their lives instead of taking time away from them to post about their lives? Happy anniversary to my beautiful wife. I can't imagine life without you. Here's an idea. Tell your beautiful wife.
Maybe he told his wife, but also wanted to share his love for her with the world. What's wrong with that?
He's so blinded by his love, he has no awareness. Others who might not be so in love might not feel like reading an example of how their love lives suck in comparison. On top of which, they're guilt-tripped into liking it and encouraging him to keep posting new examples of why their love life sucks in comparison.
Maybe they feel it's something to aspire to, that even in the midst of their desperation in failed relationships, successful relationships are possible because people are having them. And I know that's what you want, Andy.
But if the guy and his wife were at an actual gathering with friends, or like Facebook friends, pseudo friends, most of whom they don't know well or even visit in person, they might catch wind that it's the guy's anniversary, but he's not going to stop the proceeding. Excuse me, attention everybody. Happy anniversary to my beautiful wife. I can't imagine life without you. Or the people I'm forcing to hear this right now. Now I'm scared to post a link to this episode on Facebook in case my Facebook friends take it personally. I wasn't talking about them, Dr. K. I was talking about everybody who isn't them.
Well, I think your Facebook friends know you and understand your psyche well enough to not overly personalize it. And Andy, I wonder to what extent this semi-ranting about Facebook emojis and the assumptions you have about other people, to what extent does this help your journey towards self-actualization and fulfillment?
Again with the journey. I'm getting car sick from this journey. Are we there yet? It helps my journey towards fulfilling a need to vent to you, my shrink, about Facebook posters, not facing the possibility not everyone's in their same boat. Okay. Happy National Siblings Day to my favorite sibling. A non-virtual actual friend posted that. I mean, a warm childhood picture with his sister. Are the siblings not talking to each other, rushing to like that? I could have added a laughing emoji to that one.
Well, they may be sharing that with each other, but they also want to share it with the world.
Yeah, the world of estranged families. My sister adds these warm, glowing responses to the posts of folks connected in some way to where we went to high school or elementary school. People she hasn't rubbed shoulders with for decades. As I've referenced before, this Stepford world of pleasantries you don't give or get from actual people in your life. So get this. She finally ends one post with advice to all about staying in touch with people. Don't think. Just do it before it's too late. Heart, heart, heart. She was answering a kid's post about her mother, an old schoolmate of ours who passed away last year. And you know what I did?
What?
I copied and pasted my sister's advice to all and sent it back to her with the subject heading, your own advice? Who knows if she saw it because she doesn't stay in touch with at least this people. All this talk from Zuckerberg about leaving reality behind for a metaverse of our own creation. Dr. K, with all the Facebook friends in my life who aren't really in my life, and the bots I talk to on the phone instead of actual people, and the amount of screen time I kill on the computer, phone, and TV instead of witnessing actual life that you're recommending, if all that's my reality, I should make my future metaverse Mayberry.
Yeah, that might be a step forward, even though it's a movement backward.
Well, I like that therapy session, Dr. K, but not enough to use an emoji's thumb.
Well, Andy, you giveth and you taketh away. What did you like most about the therapy session, Andy?
That it ended. The Facebook Oversharing Awards. We're not wearing tuxes or anything. I'm not even wearing pants, but that's probably oversharing. The Facebook nominees for least aware of actuarial tables. My dear mom would have been 127 today. Wanda Kretsky, oversharer. Love you, Papa. Happy 50th anniversary of your 50th anniversary. Louise Gorkas, oversharer. And I still miss you, Noodles. Happy 178th in dog years. Leon Kurland, oversharer. Scott, why don't you open the envelope?
So exciting. And the winner is, I still miss you, Noodles. Happy 178th in dog years. Leon Kurland.
Leon is still mourning the loss of Harvey at 89 in hamster years, but we accept on Leon's behalf. The Facebook nominees for best shortening of one's own actuarial table. Pork sliders, mashed potatoes, and gravy. Good. Arnold Willoughby, oversharer. Looks tasty, think I'll have some. Drooling emoji. Alan Spitz's comment to Arnold Willoughby. Not sure that deserved a nomination, but it certainly was oversharing. And finally, clean my plate. Good. Also Arnold Willoughby. A rare double nominee.
Wow. And the winner is? It's a tie.
Wow.
Pork sliders, mashed potatoes, and gravy. Good. Arnold Willoughby. And clean my plate. Good. Arnold Willoughby.
Arnold is having a stent put in, but we accept on Arnold's behalf. And finally, the most coveted Facebook Oversharing Award, the Facebook nominees for Best Supporting Partner. To my precious wife on our honeymoon night. I can't wait to share our love after I post this and see how the response is. Sydney Goldsmith. Happy anniversary, darling. You were gorgeous the day I married you, and more gorgeous every day since. Day 1 JPEG through day 2000 JPEGs, Todd Bain. Day 2001 through day 3600 JPEGs, Photoshop special effects, Todd Bain. Can I announce the big winner, Scott?
Go right ahead, Andy.
To my precious wife on our honeymoon night. I can't wait to share our love after I post this and see how the response is. Sydney Goldsmith.
Yay!
Sydney couldn't be here. He's waiting to share his thanks till after he posts this and sees how the response is. Okay, before we visit with actor and comedian Brett Stoller, I'm so tired of Facebook and everything else present day. So once again, we're about to take a very special journey, Dr. K. We're going to go back into the past.
Ooh.
And make a prediction while in the past about the future that sounds sick, but one we know will become true. It's time for the sick but true future prediction from the past. Today we're going back, Scott. 58 years. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hate to hear how you'd sound if you weren't ready. All right, strap yourself in. I'm certainly not going to strap you in. Let's go back into the past. We're going. It's 1965, Scott.
Wow.
We're at the New York World's Fair, and eager fairgoers are finally getting their chance to wait in long lines to hold a 10-minute visual talk over a picture phone with a brother or sister seated in front of a picture phone in an adjoining room. Excited though they may be, each has to remain perfectly still within a tiny vertical black and white frame in order to be seen. And now, the sick but true future prediction from the past. 58 years from now, brothers and sisters will easily be able to view each other on magnificent high-def color monitors or phones thousands of miles apart without waiting in line, but never do, because some twin sisters would rather spend their time watching emojis from Facebook, quote, friends, unquote, they went to high school with and haven't talked to for over 40 years. Now let's go back into the present. Oh my God.
Andy, that seemed like a strangely personal sick but true future prediction from the past.
What makes you say that?
Come on. Some twin sisters?
Did you hear me say my twin sister?
No, I guess not.
That's because I forget what she looks like. It's been so long. Well, you know, the opening line of your website says it all. Thanks for visiting my site, even if it was a mistake. Do you feel like a mistake, Fred Stoller?
That's a good question. I guess I apologize for myself more than I need to. I remember the first time I gave an autograph, I felt so awkward, like I'm not really anybody. So yes, I got to stop apologizing.
Good. At least you didn't say, I'm sorry, I should stop apologizing. Where do you think that insecurity stems from?
You know, actually back in this was the late 70s, comedy isn't like it is now. It's almost as common as, being an obstetrician or, you know what I mean? And comedians were larger than life, the Catskills. Right. And I was very depressed and very shy, but that was the only way I knew to get out of Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, was to go to a club and hope to get discovered and be on like Happy Days or some show.
So when you quit college to become a comedian, your mom couldn't tell people you were a comedian.
Well, it's not politically correct, but it's a true story. She said, I'm not going to tell people you're a comedian. I'm going to say you're retarded. That was easier to explain.
His mother meant to say he was developmentally challenged.
I like that, Andy.
Yes, it comes from my mother always comparing me to others, putting me down, not being very affectionate, making me feel invisible, all that insecurity.
Only time I feel visible is when panhandlers spot me.
Sometimes I think I'm like the invisibility guy, except I can't go into women's locker rooms and see naked women. You know what I'm saying? I don't get any of the benefits.
Worst of both worlds.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm relating with this guy. You know what this reminds me of? Years ago, there was a poignant story on 2020 about a poor little girl who never grew past 2'6" or something. And the entire world was shorter than her. And they finally found someone her height. They flew her to the opposite end of the country to meet.
So you're saying I'm like that? Yeah. I'm making. He's one of these guys that likes his friends to fail, so he feels better. You're the type that always watches Cops and goes, "Oh, I'm not like that guy. No shirt, spitting on himself, but no eyes, and getting beaten up by his own dog." Well, I don't like friends like this because they root against you. They get mad. Oh, you have a date. Oh, how did it go? Not good, I hope. Oh, damn it. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm rooting for you.
On Seinfeld, you dated Elaine because you couldn't remember her.
Yeah, she was attracted to me only because I could remember her. And then we went on a date, and I was just demented. As why am I with this guy?
You've been anything but invisible on TV. How many guest roles do you think you've played over the years?
I don't know. There was a scene in my book, True Story. I've had it a few times where some woman on a date will look me up on the IMDb and think I'm a multimillionaire because it's got the credits, but a lot of them are short films or things for $300.
Not everybody loves Raymond. He played his cousin. And the premise was great, that you remind Raymond of everything about himself that he hates, so he's kind of trying to correct in you what he hated in himself.
Well, what happened was I originally auditioned for some part on Everybody Loves Raymond, some guy at a reunion. And Phil Rosenthal, who ran the show, and Ray, they were kind of laughing because I said the word now the way Ray says it. So my friend Steve Scrovan, who was a writer, said, you didn't get it, but if there's ever a cousin, you'll get it because, you look like Ray and say now the way he says it.
That's amazing. See what acting school and the Stanislavski method doesn't teach you? Pronounce now like the star you want to act with.
Mirroring technique in psychology, imitating the person you're persuading.
So your parents must have been proud of you when they saw you on that show. My mentally challenged son is on Everybody Loves Raymond. I mean, you have got a great thing going. Your face and voice are instantly identifiable. I mean, your license plate should say that guy, because I'll bet a lot of people say, I know that guy.
I get things where people, they hear me talk and they go, who are you? Are you famous? And I would say, if you have to ask, how famous can I be? When people go, who are you? I have different answers for different people. If it's a black guy, Rebound, Little Man. If it's someone, under 20, Wizards of Waverly Place or Drake and Josh.
You got a diversified audience there.
Yeah. I have social anxiety, but I still like interactions and little drips and drabs, like bumping into someone at the promenade, saying hi for 4 minutes, then going. So sometimes someone would say, hey, we don't mean to bother you. We recognize you. Then all of a sudden, I'm so glad someone broke up the isolation. I'm bothering them. Hey, what are you guys doing?
Now, I think back to subbing, which I did a lot of when I first came out to LA. And so in terms of your life as a perennial TV guest star, was it also kind of freeing not being a permanent fixture on the show you were visiting?
So I'm more free on a show when I know there's no way I'm coming back.
Right.
But when there's something, wait a minute, I was the cousin or in the office, then you have the anxiety, I should be back. You don't have to audition and have a little sense of a home.
We shared a home at the same time on the Seinfeld writing staff. And you say it was less pressure coming back to guest star on the show after you were no longer on staff and didn't have to worry about the politics and everything.
Well, yeah, you're on staff. As you would know, but people may not know, most sitcoms, a table where you pound out all the stories for the season together. Seinfeld, my analogy is it's like a homicide division. We're all trying to solve homicides, but our own.
Yeah, good analogy. A lot of stories were killed.
Because you're on your own to be pushy and find Jerry and Larry and pitch them a story, and you feel emasculated when Larry makes a face like, what the hell's that? That's the stupidest thing.
He could curb his enthusiasm, all right.
I talked about in the book, if you remember.
Oh, I love your books.
And I got to get yours. Congratulations. It seems like it did well. Friends of mine said it.
Oh, thank you. Banging my head against the wall. Product placement.
Yeah, they said, oh, I like this one too. I go, yeah, Andy. And I was meaning to get it. So I will get it.
Think he'll really go get it?
He said he would.
Doesn't mean he will. Maybe he was just being nice.
Doesn't mean he won't.
Doesn't mean he wasn't just being nice. And many sessions earlier.
Are you familiar with the term, don't sweat the small stuff? How come your terms always have more than one term to them? Okay. I'm familiar with the term don't. I'm familiar with the term sweat.
I guess it's an inaccurate use of the word term.
Are you familiar with the term term?
I guess it would be more accurate to say, are you familiar with the phrase?
Can we go back to the interview now?
All right.
It's almost like a Seinfeld episode with 6 weeks left to go on staff. He said to me, all right, I'm not going to use that story. Season's almost over. No point in doing anything else. I said, does that mean don't come in anymore?
It was like a farmer being paid not to plow.
I had to come in for my checks. No point doing anything else. So I'd come to work and sit around and go home. And so I felt much more appreciated as an actor. You're just there and they're laughing and thanking you. So
yeah, the staff writing experience was never a joyride for me on any show I was involved with. Although when we were at Seinfeld, there was no table by and large, which until, later on Jerry took over when Larry left and it became a table. But as challenging as pitching individually on the fly was, I hated table writing. I always likened it to cooking a meal together with people who had different dietary needs and tastes. I may like the Brussels sprouts. You may not like the Brussels sprouts. Doesn't mean the Brussels sprouts aren't worthy. It's a very subjective combination of opinions.
Also, it's one extreme. It's either isolation on Seinfeld or a bunch of loud, aggressive people pitching an idea. It's like Jeopardy. You press the button and got to get...
What is obnoxious?
And Some of them you give like, when it's a table, an answer and no one listens, they're trying to get their own. So it's like an auction year, people auctioning, trying to get their wares on. So yes, you're either with a lot of aggressive, pushy, loud people, or you're totally on your own, like on Seinfeld.
When you guys were just talking a moment ago about an idea that you thought was really funny, and then Larry said, well, that was stupid. I was thinking, boy, there must be a ton of great ideas. There's probably a lot of good stuff still.
Well, there's a whole chapter in my book, Banging My Head Against the Wall, about Seinfeld stories I pitched. I've talked about this one before. The earliest one of mine Larry liked, but didn't get made before I pitched him the opposite, was The Lost Bra. George finds a large lost bra in the dryer in the laundromat and wants to find the woman it fits, like the glass slipper. And Kramer keeps killing the fantasy. That's obviously a grandmother's bra. Look at the lace on there. Okay, tell him about one of yours Larry liked, Monkey Jungle.
Oh, yes. As you know, when you write on Seinfeld, you take things from your life.
Yeah, thinking I would have been better off doing the opposite came from my life.
When I was a kid, our family went to this place in Florida called Monkey Jungle. And I remember these grown men, in hindsight, they were probably 18. They were throwing rocks at the monkeys. They weren't hitting them, but the woman who works there goes, what are you throwing rocks at monkeys for? And it's true. He goes, they started it. So I told that story to Larry. He goes, yeah, that could be funny. Kramer has to apologize to a monkey.
Speaking of your younger days, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Now I wish I looked as I didn't know I was better looking than I was years ago. And that's that cliche, youth is wasted on the young. But I got to say, a lot of my depression and anxiety has gotten better as I got older in the fact that I'm not in the game, showbiz, pilot season, trying to meet women.
Yeah.
And it's kind of liberating because I don't have the anxiety and depression that something has to happen, that this is my time. Like, why aren't I? Now you just accept I'm older. I'd be online at a bank and, someone said hi or whatever. How do I get her number? Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I returned to stand-up comedy briefly because I had my book and I went on this festival circuit and had to do my act. I was kind of a little bit less stressful doing my act because there wasn't that pressure. I can meet a waitress. I'm going to hang out. Maybe someone thought I was funny. There was no shot of that. And it was a lot less stressful.
That is really interesting. You know what? That kind of pays lip service. Dr. K, did you hear about this statistic? They were gauging reactions from age groups during the pandemic, and they found that older people tended to be happier. I wonder if that relates to anything Fred was talking about.
I don't know if it relates exactly what he was talking about, but there's something about acquiring wisdom as one ages because you've been through so many situations, rejections from women, rejections from producers, rejections from sitcoms, and then you figure out a way to handle it. I think that's the dimension that might apply to that statistic.
I saw Louis C.K.'s special after the scandal, and one of his bits, and I'm not going to do it justice, was you have more anxiety in your 20s because, wow, I have 70 years left, But when you're in your 50s, you go, what do I have, like 26 years left? I could do this. And now if you're older, it's like, I got the money I need. You know what I mean? I could ride this out.
Here's kind of a sick analogy I might apply to that. And I've talked about this in session with you before, Dr. K. I always like what's about to end more than what's about to begin. I hated camp, going to camp, overnight camp. And then by the time it was over, I was crying to stay there. I didn't want to go home. So maybe it's the same way as far as life is concerned. I don't mean to imply, Fred, that you're about to end your life, but you know what I'm saying.
What you're saying could be a lot of the anxiety. Like I'd have anxiety when I'm about to go to a party and then it's not as bad as the anticipation. But I find with the pandemic, the pressure was off. It was like a reboot, a timeout. I had enough parties and barbecues and trying to meet people and socialize. So I actually liked the break for a while.
Yeah.
People have had depression or trauma. We weren't as affected by this lockdown because we rehearsed it. And another thing I've learned as I've gotten older is imagine trauma, futurizing as they call it, messes your head, your imagination, than real trauma like lawsuits or my cat dying, which was traumatic, but anticipating these events is more stressful than the actual events I learned.
Absolutely. In fact, I once pitched a story for Seinfeld, which they didn't use, of course, having to do with all the characters discovering what I called a life loophole. I talked about it in my book, where if you imagine the worst case scenario happening, because anything you imagine never happens that precise way ultimately. So if you intentionally imagine the worst case scenario as far as an event that you're dreading, then you will be sure to almost inoculate yourself against that event happening. Your imagination is sometimes your own worst enemy. Dr. K?
That sounds like a prediction that you would definitely make, imagining the worst case scenario.
And in this case, I imagine the worst case scenario, you responding that way, and it came true.
See, in our business, we call that negative future prediction.
Yeah, didn't you talk with Kathy Geiswhite about that when she was on the show?
Yeah, she was quite worried. Fred, I was listening to your answers to questions. I don't know if it was a podcast. One individual asked you, how can I get my parents to support me to be a comedian? And then an actor was asking you about advice. You gave some responses that I thought really reflected mental health. And I don't know if you remember it. One was that your parents' non-support made you stronger.
Yeah.
Getting into the comedy world, how can I get my parents to accept me? And I think your bottom line is you can't.
Exactly. And that I embraced that as part of my persona.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then that had to do with your answer to the question about acting. And you made a couple of astute comments. One was, don't be a clone. Two, find out who you are, embrace who you are, and embrace your imperfections.
I believe that, yes.
Something that I try to work with people who come to me who are in various states of trauma or depression or anxiety, and they think there's something drastically wrong.
The strongest comedians and actors, a sense of self-awareness about them.
Right.
I'm in on the joke that I'm kind of a schmuck, thinking I'm a cool guy. So to me, I'm amazed by comedians. There's just a few that have no sense of self-effacement. Maybe I have too much, but...
Good, there's that self-effacement. Speaking of self-effacement and your parents, tell the story about how your mom signs off on her cards.
Oh yeah, my mother, she's not doing it as a joke. She bought a birthday card and it says to my father. She pressed it out and wrote "son," and which would be a joke, but it wasn't a joke. That's not her humor, or she has none that way. And she doesn't write "love, mom." It was said fondly. So I've graduated to my mother's sort of fond of me.
So it's a challenge writing the word love on the.
I used to do a joke in my act. There's not a lot of warmth and affection between me and my mother. I asked her about it. I said, "Mrs. Stoller."
You could do worse than fondly, Fred. If I got fondly back in high school from some girl, I'd think she liked me. So, Fred, your mom likes you.
Remember, Fred, I think you may be more mentally healthy than you're giving yourself credit.
You know what really helped is when I just embraced it. I was at this party and this friend of mine said, "Oh, I hate small talk." And I said, "Do you have social anxiety also?" She goes, "No, I don't like it." And that really liberated me that it's not social anxiety. It's not for me. So I used to, all these things that gave me anxiety, I thought there's something wrong with me. I don't like this. I don't like that.
It's a preference, not a pathology.
Yes. I forced myself thinking I had social anxiety, a flaw. Then I realized I don't like it.
All the stuff I talk about in therapy with you, Dr. K, that bugs me, maybe it's not that I'm screwed up. Maybe it's just things that bug me aren't for me.
You seem to draw more life lessons from our guests than you do from me as your therapist.
They make smarter choices, like not having me as a patient. Session 9 highlighted the slow death of a relationship, too slow death of lazy language habits, and the birth of AI, not to mention the birth of you, AI Dr. K.
I'm waiting for the rebirth of you.
Like we don't have enough sequels. Keep waiting. Which I did for Stormy Daniels to stop popping up in my search for new love, and for guest non-neurotic Nell to stop flaunting the lack of a neurotic bone in her body. This is a very emotional time for me right now. This is the very first time I'm doing the podcast since my brain surgery. Elective brain surgery. Unnecessary elective brain surgery. Unless it was necessary, no accredited doctor would even do it. You know what it's like to keep getting rejected by brain surgeons? I'm no brain surgeon, but I know. So I had to go find an unaccredited doctor. And my Medicare wouldn't even cover it, so he had to be cheap enough too. You know how much gas costs driving to Tijuana? The drug cartels cost me too. I had the surgery months ago, and now I'm back. I had no idea I'd be this emotional. He switched my old brain with a ChatGPT brain. ChatGPTs don't even have emotions. I was so sick of hearing about AI and how smart ChatGPT is compared to the rest of humanity. So I went through hell to do something about it. And now, people at parties ask me to write their term papers. They're just using me. But I don't have emotions, so I don't care that they're just using me. Then why am I feeling so emotional? There are many possible reasons why I might be feeling emotional. Hormonal changes. Hormonal fluctuations can affect your mood and emotions, particularly during certain times of the month, e.g. during menstruation. Stress. If you're under a lot of stress, this can increase your emotional sensitivity and make you more likely to experience strong emotions. If you've experienced a traumatic event or recently lost someone important to you, this can trigger intense emotions. What emotions? With my new brain, I'm not supposed to care about that stuff. Why did I go to an unaccredited doctor? There may be several reasons why someone might go to an unaccredited doctor. One possibility is that they were not aware of the doctor's accreditation status or did not consider it important at the time. Another is that they did not have access to accredited doctors due to geographical or financial constraints. He must have screwed up. But I'm going back to him. After my surgery, they released GPT-4, and I'm sick of hearing how smart GPT-4 is. You remember my phobia about the other shoe dropping? After things seem good and you think you have well-being, the shoe dropped. My girlfriend's moving back to Canada.
When did you hear about that?
She'd been dropping little hints, how she's sick of LA and the culture and the country's gun laws. I mean, who isn't?
I can just imagine your thought bubble. Wait a minute, I'm part of LA. Does that mean you're sick of me?
You mean the 1,100 square feet of my apartment? That's the only part I'm part of. Meanwhile, she still signs off emails with XO. Says she'll miss me, always love me, and she's not moving back for months. But now she doesn't want to get too close because it'll hurt that much more when she finally does leave. I'd be better off if it didn't hurt and she hated my guts. Then maybe she'd see me.
Well, you have invested a tremendous amount of mental energy and effort in this person. And it sounds to me like you just haven't consistently gotten what you've put in, what you put out.
Put out, put in. That's not even consistent.
I applaud you for hanging in there as long as you did. You gave it a Herculean effort. Did I say that right, Andy? Herculean, or is it Herculean?
No, but Hercules called and he wants his name back. I'm connecting with breakup songs now. I can't even draw pity for what I'm going through. Tons of lyricists have already been there. Just friends, lovers no more. Just friends, not like before. Sam Lewis, 1931. John Klenner wrote the music. Lush Life, Billy Strayhorn, also in the 30s. Life is lonely again, and only last year. Everything seems so sure. Current enough song references for you, Dr. K? My love life's as dead as the lyricist.
Isn't this a good thing?
What?
That brilliant songwriters have chronicled this all-too-human experience for decades and decades to let you know you're not alone.
Yeah, but they made royalties off their misery every day. What am I making every day? Toast? The relationship's toast.
You have a richer human experience. That's what you've gotten out of it.
Alone again, naturally. That's only a half-century old. I always related to that song. You remember that one?
Gilbert O'Sullivan.
That's it. You know, mutual funds, you always hear past performance doesn't guarantee future results. The same thing applies to mutual fun.
That is so true. And just because there's an intense loving situation, there's no guarantee it will last.
Yeah.
Investing involves risk and possible loss. Investing our emotions involves risk and loss too, Andy. But if you stay on the sidelines, you're guaranteed nothing will happen.
Glad you're not my broker peddling crypto. I'd be broker.
But there is a guarantee that you won't have a chance at all if you don't try. And you really put forth an effort there. And you got real close. And you'll get even closer next time. I guarantee that, Andy.
I don't know. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Maybe it's better to have never loved at all. Then you don't know what you're missing.
You wanted to love, and you did. Not that it didn't work out, but that you gave it your all, and there were some really cool things about it.
You know, Dr. K, I always rationalize when a relationship ends. It's a survival mechanism. Ducked another bullet. Wasn't meant to be. It's the only way I can feel better about it.
Yeah.
She had her issues. The way she pronounced oot, I wasn't crazy about. Any way I can tarnish things in my mind. Otherwise, to think my ideal better half just blew up in smoke is too painful.
I think you're on the right track towards recovery and development. You're really making an effort to accept this change, this loss, without rancor, without anger, without all the negative emotions that can paralyze you.
Getting back to tarnishing what I once had in order to feel better about not having it now. Did I ever tell you the presidential debate story?
No.
We were both political junkies. We had so much in common. Back to tarnishing. She was coming over to watch the first Trump-Biden debate and running late. So I started watching, and when she got here, about 10 or 15 minutes into it, I went back to the beginning of it because I DVR'd it, and I didn't want her to miss it. I was so excited that she was coming over. And she was annoyed, mad, that I didn't wait to watch from the beginning till she got there. She said it was like meeting at a restaurant after I already started eating. You can't rewind back to the appetizer. That's what I told her.
So how did it play out?
We wound up having our own debate. Could have used our own moderator. She kind of gently stewed about it and let it go and kind of realized it was overblown.
And how did you process her antipathy, Andy?
I was shocked at what I thought was an overreaction. She was saying, if I had known this on the way over here, I would have turned around. I mean, all I was thinking about was making the place comfortable for her arrival. And she was running late and the thing was starting. And I was thinking, oh, this is great. I'm recording it. The second she gets here, I'm saving her the premier couch position. I'll rewind to the beginning. So it's all good intentions flowing through my brain. Nothing but goodwill towards her in my brain. So that was such a jarring juxtaposition with how she reacted to me.
Well, it was. I think that's an accurate assessment on your part. But the real issue here, Andy, in terms of your therapy and growth as a human being is, how did you react to this juxtaposition? Were you curious? Were you angry? Were you accepting?
I don't know if I was curious, but I am curious how you came up with such lousy multiple choice options. I was ultimately accepting.
Yeah, and you did something kind of cool. You went to humor, the rewind comment. I wasn't there to see if it was hostile humor or non-aggressive humor. It sounds like you were trying to make light of the situation. And Andy, we all know that humor is a high-level defense psychologically.
It was marginally snide.
Well, Andy, that shows a level of insight. A tad snide, I think, is understandable in the context of, look, you really tried to make it happen, and it was a disappointment. How did the rest of the evening go?
Well, it went great because Trump lost the debate. Her past relationships didn't exactly go the distance. Could I be subconsciously drawn to women who ultimately pull out of relationships doomed to fail? Because I somehow want them to fail?
We all have had issues in relationships. I don't know what her particular issues are. I would not want to speculate, and I would not want to speculate that you're at some level drawn to failure or drawn to things that aren't going to work.
You mean like my therapy?
You may consciously think this isn't working, but your subconscious knows better, Andy.
Talk about speculating.
From what you've told me about it, this was going in quite an upward direction. But there were other variables in her life that were stronger than the connection to you, whether it was Canada, other issues.
She was so independent. We didn't even talk between dates, just email. She didn't like the phone. She didn't even text me. The annoying default for talking. I mean, I liked walkie-talkies as a kid. I would have had no interest in walkie-texties.
I think you're bringing up something that's a cultural trend. I've noticed that a lot of people do not want to talk on the phone. They're losing that skill of interacting with people. I think it's deeper. It's more meaningful. And you know what? I think it's going to come back to that at some point in time.
Walkie-talkies?
I wonder how she would have responded if you said, hey, how about walkie-talkie? How about a CB radio? Yeah. I just want to hear your voice.
No, but we really weren't compatible. She didn't like sleeping with another person. And she couldn't believe she met a guy, me, who didn't like sleeping with another person. And I couldn't believe I met a woman who didn't like sleeping with another person.
Wow, well, that's an important part of compatibility. You hit that button pretty clearly.
Yeah, I mean, why does sleeping together have to mean sleeping together? Sleeping is a selfish, solitary experience, followed by waking up and adjusting to being awake, another selfish, solitary experience. Why not spend just the best moments together? That's what a pilot script of mine years ago was about. Reinventing marriage along those lines. I don't know how people who sleep together do it. If I do it, I mean sleep.
Yeah, I got it. And there's a lot of people who have phenomenally successful and loving relationships, but they don't sleep together. I don't think it has anything to do with intimacy. Some people's sleeping habits are just annoying to the other person. So I think it shows respect.
I have a twin sister. I haven't slept with anybody since I lived with my roommate. And we were preemies.
Oh, you came out first?
Yeah. I was so anxious to be on my own, I pushed out 6 weeks early. Couldn't even commit to a full-term pregnancy. Did my prenatal sister help make me the loner I am today?
Well, it's in the realm of speculation, but maybe it's worth pursuing.
Well, the next time you counsel the Olsen twins, be sure to ask them. I'm not implying the Olsen twins need therapy. They're very rich. I wouldn't want to piss them off. The crux of our time together was during the shutdown. So I really didn't even have time to introduce her to my friends.
Yeah.
Now that she's out of my life, it would help to hear somebody say, never liked that girlfriend of yours. That's how you find out what people don't like. You get rid of it. Decades ago, I got rid of the mustache. Never liked that mustache. If I ever got rid of me, my mourners would go, never liked that Andy guy. Then again, Joni Mitchell sang, you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Time for reflection?
Yeah. I once sent my mom an old JPEG of me from the 70s. A friend sent me and she emailed back, oh, you look good. I remember this. Meaning, I looked good in the 70s. Meanwhile, in the 70s, she said my hair was too long, meaning then I looked good in the 60s when it wasn't too long. Oh, for a compliment that isn't time released.
Well, some mothers are never satisfied.
Nah, my mother was great. I loved my mother. That's not just a time release compliment. I'm very aware now of when women in general seem to be disengaging from me. This happened last week. I'm in line at the supermarket. Checkout girl. Is that politically incorrect? Checkout woman.
Checkout person.
Checkout person. Non-binary checkout person. Ask the customer ahead of me, how's your day going? He leaves. Then it's my turn. Nothing. I grab my bag, and she asks the guy after me, how's your day going? I swear. Guess she didn't ask me because she knew how my day was going. Lousy, because she didn't ask how my day was going. Well, you know, knowing what I'd be talking about in therapy earlier, this is absolutely true. The other day, I asked ChatGPT about my problem with the checkout girl.
You're using AI technology as your therapist?
So what? A lot of times your answers are robotic.
That's pretty good.
This is legit. I typed out my whole supermarket saga in the ChatGPT text box, hit enter, and ChatGPT instantly gave me feedback. No hemming, no hawing.
Well, Andy, I'm not sure about this. I don't think you should enter an unproven technology with your psyche, with all the parameters that holds. I think you're entering dangerous territory.
You sound threatened. By the way, you're feeling threatened by AI that isn't even as smart as its successor. I didn't ask for help. GPT-4.
I'm concerned about your well-being, Andy, as your therapist and as somebody who cares about you. I don't want you to put yourself into a situation where you could get hurt.
Well, if you weren't threatened before, you might be now. I took sound files of your voice from a show from season 1, duplicated them so it was at least 2 hours long. That's what a site called play.ht requires for voice cloning.
Well, I appreciate you asking my permission to do that, Andy.
Which I didn't.
Yeah, that's the point. You did it.
I couldn't believe how natural it sounded. I swear, this is not a bit, listeners. About an hour later, they sent me back your cloned voice. And I typed ChatGPT's feedback on the supermarket problem into play.ht's dashboard, hit generate preview, and 30 seconds later, AI Dr. K.
Wow.
Want to hear him channeling ChatGPT?
If I must.
Here it is.
Ultimately, while it's nice to be acknowledged and engaged with, it's important not to take things like this personally.
Yeah, good
Instead,
advice.
focus on being polite and friendly yourself.
So true.
Oh, talk about obvious.
And remember that sometimes people are just having a bad day.
Good point.
Of course.
It's
What is
also
that?
possible the checkout girl didn't intentionally ignore you, but simply didn't feel that asking about your day was appropriate for whatever reason.
What a meaningless, mealy-mouthed response.
There could be any number of factors that influence her decision to engage in small talk, including her personality, the store's policies, or the particular situation at the time.
What's that have to do with her personality? She asked the others how their day
Oh,
was
thanks
going.
for reminding me. AI Dr. K is making me feel better. You're making me feel worse.
Boy, if you were only as receptive to my attempts to help you, as opposed to vague, general,
Our
simplistic.
therapy regimen hasn't been pretty vague.
Oh, you don't think I'm individualizing your treatment to your expectations, Andy?
Don't worry, AI Dr. K isn't after your job.
I'm not worried. Nobody can replace me, Andy.
Yeah, they haven't invented artificial narcissism yet.
I think you're going down a non-therapeutic road here. How can you get better with these kind of platitudes and banalities?
I had a feeling you'd be threatened. I proactively asked ChatGPT about it. And play.ht had your clone recite ChatGPT's answer. You want to hear that?
Okay.
As an AI language model, I do not have the capacity to threaten or harm anyone, including your therapist.
He's wrong. Text matters.
I exist solely to provide information and support through text-based communication. It is possible that your therapist may feel intimidated by the idea of you seeking information or support from an AI.
I'd rather acknowledge my intimidation than a disingenuous certitude.
But it is important to remember that therapy is a personal and individualized process, and your therapist is there to support you in your journey towards healing and growth.
Yeah, when will this journey end?
It might be worth discussing any concerns you have with your therapist directly to ensure that you are both on the same page about your treatment goals and
Good
needs.
advice.
Or quite possibly, your therapist could truly, truly suck.
The last part I added to ChatGPT's comment.
Oh, I see. Keeping the humor alive, Andy. I don't think ChatGPT is qualified to make opinions on what direction you need to go in. I'm a licensed psychologist in 3 states. I have a PhD. I have a track record of progress with a diverse range of clientele.
Your human therapist sounds paranoid. I am incapable of such weakness. I think you would be better served by telling him to take a hike in the desert underneath a circle of buzzards.
None of that was from ChatGPT. I typed all of that into play.ht's dashboard, and 30 seconds later, AI Dr. K spit it out.
Thanks a lot, Andy.
I've moaned in earlier shows about lazy language habits that keep creeping into our vernacular. ChatGPT hasn't caught on to this latest one yet, thank God. Either I'm neurotic enough to notice it, or the perpetrators aren't neurotic enough to notice it. Have you noticed this, Scott?
What's that?
Not AI Dr. K. What's he still doing here? The real Dr. K.
You're basically evil.
That was the real Dr. K. I'm talking about when pundits and politicians and talking heads keep slipping in the rhetorical question, right? It's spreading like a language virus. We're all seeking unspoken confirmation of our opinions, I guess.
It has to do with confirmation bias, seeking out opinions that just match your own and not being aware of other opinions.
He was clearly speaking to his base, right? They clearly heard the dog whistles, right? Just once. I'd like to hear somebody argue back. Wrong. Only dogs can hear ultrasonic tones. Another thing I should have pitched Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful when he was here, Scott. GPS app, Gab positioning system. Enter starting argument, enter destination, and my GPS will tell you where to slow down to make a right every step of the way.
Look at you. I love the ambition. I love it.
Last season, I mentioned another language habit I don't like. In fact, it's something I haven't liked for years now. The overuse of the word like.
I'm all aboard with you on that. It is far overused.
Well, if it's all right with you, Dr. K, I would like to let this therapeutic clip of an original ditty of mine I've been having fun with in singing gigs around town show listeners what I mean.
Okay.
Can you imagine me having fun?
Yes, I can imagine it because you've developed in therapy.
Oh, turn it around on yourself. Okay, I'll give you that one. But meanwhile, I still have a ways to go. I enjoy recording the gigs and listening to them after the fact more than I do experiencing the gigs.
Might be fodder for a future therapy session.
I don't enjoy your therapy or listening to it after the fact. Recorded live in Malibu with Nina Beck on the keyboards.
This is an original little tune I wrote. It's kind of therapeutic for me because I complain about the overuse of a word. This song is called I Don't Like. There is one thing that I'm sure of. I don't need to take a tour of a lost road to wit. People searching for a word that invariably goes unheard. Once again, in lieu of the one-size-fits-all substitute, that word that leaves our mother tongue tied. Shoot, our command of communication has taken a hike. We're as eloquent as a 15-year-old tyke. I don't like. I don't like how it's like taking over. It's like as rare as a three-leaf clover. What term did we like used to convey before like led our wits astray? I don't like. I don't like the choicer words. It's taking the place of the ones I hear nary a trace of. Where can I return that crummy gift to Gab? Refire the misfiring of neurons in a lab. Can our smartphones make us smarter when we blab? Conversational robodopes, stop waiting on like and Siri. Direct us to the place where it's only used for approve or akin to. That would make me like cheery. My little complaint about the overuse of like.
Well, before we visit with non-neurotic Nell, it's time for new search engines. Well, today we're introducing another brand new search engine, a lot more spirited than Yahoo. It's called Whoopee.
Whoopee.
You missed two whoops.
Whoop whoop.
Okay. Now that I'm back on the market again, I should look up other ways to meet eligible single women who appreciate a dry sense of humor.
I like this, exploring other avenues.
Maybe there are dating sites that cater to these kind of women. I don't know. Let's see. Let me type in LA single women seeking dry sense of humor.
Okay.
Ooh, it's fast. Whoopee. Dry humor, dry cleaners, dry mouth, dental disorders.
Boy, it's all over the map.
Disorder, January 6th, Trump, Stormy Daniels. I can't afford whoopee with her. Well, let me try dating sites for smart single women not interested in money.
That's a very positive attitude. I like the mindset.
Fantasy, science fiction, fiction, Fox News, Trump, con artist, sleazy, Stormy Daniels. Jeez, isn't there anybody else besides Stormy Daniels I can meet?
Keep hope alive, Andy.
What are you channeling, Jesse Jackson now?
I'll channel whatever it takes to get you moving forward.
Anything you want to ask, Whoopee?
Ask why AI isn't a substitute for real therapy.
Wow, you're still nursing your wounds over that experience.
Yeah, if that's what you think.
I think you were leading the witness there, Scott. You're already proclaiming AI isn't a substitute for real therapy. Let me ask it a little more like a question. Is AI a substitute for real therapy?
Oh, okay.
Can artificial intelligence replace therapists? Artificial intelligence, artificial tan, artificial hair, Trump, blowhard, Stormy Daniels. Okay, Stormy, call me. Non-neurotic Nell. Nell Rogers is about to visit with us. She claims she's never been neurotic a day of her life, if you call that a life. Non-neurotic Nell, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Now, your handle, and tell me if I'm wrong, Dr. K, seems like an example of your own insecurity. You're defensively exclaiming to the world, I'm not neurotic, to hide the fact that you're neurotic, which is neurotic.
Now that comment is you just being neurotic. Please don't project your neuroses to me.
I think the point here is that all of her activities are non-neurotic because she's not neurotic at all. Her life is a non-neurotic life. So no matter what activity she does, she's not worried, she's not anxious, she's non-neurotic.
Like Siri or Alexa. Are you basically a robot non-neurotic girl?
I happen to love robots. I am literally in love with my Roomba vacuum cleaner. If I could have an affair with it, I would.
You wish your love life literally sucked? That's pretty neurotic.
It just does what I say. I turn it on and it vacuums my entire home. So yes, if you want to call me a robot, I take that as a compliment.
When you turn your partner on, does he do what you say? Or maybe he sucks.
She's using robots in a non-neurotic, healthy way, Andy.
She's literally in love with her vacuum. That's healthy?
I like the way she accesses robots to promote her life in a problem-solving way, not a worrying, neurotic way.
Okay, let me ask you this. When somebody's talking to you for a long time, finally lets you have the floor and talk, and they start yawning, what would be your first reaction?
Maybe they're tired. They had a bad night's sleep the night before. Their baby woke them up.
Come on. You wouldn't think they didn't yawn when they were babbling nonstop at me. Why are they suddenly yawning when I'm doing the talking?
No, that's neurotic.
Their sleep deficit just happened to kick in the second I get the floor? What are the odds of that? Do they just like hearing themselves talk, or am I boring?
I would not get neurotic about that in the least. I don't take it personally. I would not think I was boring. I would think that their sleep deficit kicked in because they stopped talking and...
Oh, sorry, I was yawning there. Let me ask you this, non-neurotic girl. When somebody wipes the corners of their mouth, is that a signal for me to wipe the corners of my mouth?
Oh my gosh.
Or are they just nervously wiping their own corners?
Who even notices something like that?
It's tricky. If I think it's a signal and I start wiping my mouth, they could think I'm signaling them to wipe their mouths again.
That's neurotic.
You're not neurotic enough to worry about your face?
I don't bother to play mind games like that.
All right. What about when you get a new driver's license picture after carrying your old one for 10 years?
What about it?
Learning you look 10 years older than your old license pic made you think you looked?
Wow.
So, you are 10 years older.
Not according to my distorted self-image I was holding on to all those years.
Maybe you should get new driver's license pictures more often.
All right, well, if a cop ever asks for your old license and doesn't recognize you and starts wiping the corners of his mouth, I'm happy your head won't explode. Okay, what if you're in a three-way conversation with two other people, and whenever each of them has something to say, the only one they don't direct their eye contact to is you?
That's never happened to me, neurotic guy.
Come on. You always get equitable eye contact?
Who even notices something like that?
Discerning people, neurotic people.
I probably don't even notice if there's equitable eye contact, and then it gives me a moment to think about my own thoughts. So again, I hate to throw it back to you, but I think that's neurotic.
Well, I guess you're not neurotic or discerning.
Just because I'm not neurotic doesn't mean I'm not sensitive, neurotic guy.
Uh-huh.
It's just that I don't obsess over stuff like you do.
Yeah.
I appreciate the good in life and accept what I can't change about what isn't so good without thinking everything is screwed up. That's neurotic.
All right, I guess I can try to accept what I can't change about what isn't so good. Like that comment you just made. And now for our part 2 final highlights, session 10. On the effectiveness of Dr. K's therapy up till now, going from annoyed to crotchety, reaching for a woohoo moment, coping in stores with life's unwanted music soundtrack versus music I'd like, a very good year that doesn't imply that days grow short after 35, along with Neurotica Theater's chilling portrayal of days that never grow short, and a guest who needed to chill, eternally upbeat author and motivational speaker Mario.
That was quite a mouthful.
How do you know? You don't even have a mouth.
This is our, 10th therapy session, Andy?
Yeah.
And we keep going over the same issues, which is fine.
You keep going over the same issues.
Well,
you keep saying, can't guarantee anything, but if you don't try, I might as well just put a ring at the back of your neck and pull it.
Yeah, or feed it into your ChatGPT.
You mean clone it through play.ht like last session?
Can't guarantee anything, but if you don't try, Jesus, I'm less artificial than this garbage.
I wanted to introduce an idea to you, and I do this periodically with real clients in my real practice, is to have them assess the effectiveness of the therapy visits over a period of time, because we want to have some metric that it's working. So I'd like to ask you, Andy, if you look at percentage achievement of your goals, where would you be on this imaginary scale from 0 to 100%? How far have you come in 9 therapy sessions so far?
You mean before you inferred I'm a fake in this session by contrasting me with your real clients? Sounds like 0 to me.
Let me assure you, Andy, I consider you as genuine as any of my clients.
How come I have to come up with a metric that it's working? A surgeon knows when the defibrillator's working. I don't think he'd ask, in the achievement of your goals to get your heart pumping again, how far have you come?
I can assess your improvement, but I am interested in your view of your improvement. My view is one part, your view is the crucial part.
I think I do try harder to appreciate the positives in life, thanks to your therapy.
Good.
There's something fulfilling about not just blaming me for my lack of progress.
Okay, that's not exactly.
No, but Dr. K, I long for the zest in life I think I once had, and I try hard to recognize it when it happens.
That sounds kind of exciting. It's almost hopeful, Andy.
Oh, let's not go that far.
Gee, when you're talking like that, Andy, I'm thinking of almost giving you the first Dr. K badge in mental health. Are we inching beyond 0%?
You mean in terms of my being helped by you?
Yes.
I would say so, except you've already talked about issuing me a badge of mental health in an earlier session, so the fact that you don't remember anything we discussed brings us smack dab back to zero.
Well, don't dwell on that. I wouldn't want to make you more crotchety than you already are.
I don't want to be crotchety, Dr. K. How do I tell the get off my lawn guy in my own head to get off my lawn?
Andy, this self-awareness of yours is a healthy thing.
I hope.
This acknowledgement of where you are and where you once were.
I was watching 60 Minutes the other week, and I actually think I got kind of a hint of it. By the way, ever notice how often 60 Minutes correspondents repeat what their subjects just said? They repeat what their subjects just said. If they didn't, it'd be called 54 Minutes. Unless Scott Pelley's doing a story. There is nothing close to the rising figures associated with inflation that happened post-pandemic, except perhaps for the numbers of seconds in between syllables that are spoken by slow-talking correspondents like yours truly, who make 60 minutes seem like 60 hours. Like Anderson Cooper doesn't have enough work. 60 Minutes, AC 360, the whole story with Anderson Cooper, that's another one. He hasn't given us the whole story by now. A writer's cramp from filling out occupation on his tax form. He should file that story.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry how I sounded there. Anderson Cooper seems like a good person. Dr. K, remember in session 5 when I worried about crossing over from annoyed to crotchety?
I do remember that.
You said I was on the spectrum of crotchetiness.
Oh, good recall, Andy.
I did enjoy that turn of phrase. I mean, crotchetiness must be like puberty. I think there were telltale early signs. Remember when Brian Williams hosted the 11th Hour on MSNBC?
Vaguely. You're more of a news person than I am.
He used to always tell his guests, "We can't thank you enough." And my inner voice yelled, "Yeah, Brian, saying thank you would be thanking him enough." And I remember thinking, uh-oh, that's crotchety.
Listen, your self-recognition goes hand in hand with the first steps towards self-improvement.
If getting in the slowest supermarket checkout line was a video game, I'd win every time. And I'm the only one in line who looks annoyed. That must be crotchety.
Crotchety, impatient, having trouble with the moment.
The speed with which you're arriving at a point is about as slow as the supermarket line that I get in.
You know what that's called, Andy?
What?
Reflective listening.
Oh, like when you say pretty bird to a parrot and the parrot says pretty bird back?
Let's put it this way, Andy. You're playing checkers, I'm playing chess.
I guess that makes me your pawn.
No, yes, I do.
I think your tongue is playing ping pong.
Very careful to not respond right away. I want to take in not just the words of what you're saying, but the tone of what you're saying.
I don't like being crotchety, but anything can set me off.
I want you to be radically honest. It does concern me, but I want to know, is that true?
When the colon and right parenthetical in a Word doc you're typing defaults into a smiley face, I feel guilty I'm not smiling because I'm busy being annoyed or crotchety about having to take the time to retype in the colon and right parenthetical, which is my default, not the smiley face.
You still have an antipathy towards automatons or bots, don't you?
There's nothing shallower, Dr. K, than the sound of a phone ring you know is a bot calling to verify the code your bank just sent you. I mean, I should treat them like friends because I never hear from them. A ring used to mean so much, Dr. K. A friend or family member must be calling. Somebody who cares about me is calling.
Yeah.
Somebody with blood swimming through their veins is calling. A human telemarketer. I'll take anybody. So I take my frustration out on the bot. At the same time, I feel like an idiot for doing it. When I yell back at voice prompts, I sound crotchety.
Well, if you're calling yourself crotchety, maybe your less than crotchety self more accurately represents you.
Yeah, well, the bots make it challenging enough getting the representatives to represent me.
Andy, this is the world we're living in right now. There's good things about it, and there's frustrating parts.
Yeah.
I think it's important to accept that and move on.
I don't accept what you said. Moving on. What kills me is calls are always recorded for quality control. So the humans who wind up hearing me yell at bots must think I'm nuts or that I don't know they're bots.
I see.
And when I finally get through to a human who gives me a case number for an issue of missing credit that still doesn't wind up happening, I call back a week later with a case number, and they have no record of the call. So when the bots tell you calls are recorded for quality control, they're even more human than ever. They've learned how to lie.
Andy, the bots are imperfect just like humans are.
Inferior quality control. That they're controlling.
It's about how you handle, adapt to, live with an imperfect world.
Actually, I think I have a perfect way to reduce the amount of bots.
What's that, Andy?
Program mail bots to commit one Me Too assault. It'll destroy every mail bot's career and we'll never hear from them again. To return to the previous menu, press 1. To return to my hotel room, press 2.
I want you to go back to something you said earlier.
What's that?
The open-mindedness you once had. That you had a hint of that when you were watching 60 Minutes?
Oh yeah. It was a story Anderson Cooper, of course, reported about the future of AI. And they showed these two robots, speaking of robots, who learned how to play soccer. They weren't just rolling back and forth. They had limbs. They bent down to their knees and pushed themselves up again. I mean, you see the digital equivalent of something like that in a movie and your eyes glaze over. Yeah, big deal. But three-dimensional contraptions. There's a codger term. Doing all those things, I couldn't stop smiling.
Wow.
Remember in session 8, I told you how rare smiling is for me?
You did tell me that.
Oh, good. Then you remember some of this. I mean, smiling is just the first stage. I wish I could go beyond that and just let out utter joy. Woohoo! I heard that on a commercial. I don't remember what the product was. So if the ad campaign director's listening, nice job. Anyway, I'd kill for my own woohoo moment. I've never uttered woohoo in my life.
Maybe it's time to look at the positives in your life and celebrate what you already have.
Yeah.
Come on, you could be more enthusiastic than that.
All right. Woohoo! I don't have shingles.
Not bad, Andy.
Woohoo! I haven't seen any new termites since the exterminator shot my wall a year ago with poison.
Hey, maybe each session you can reach for another woohoo moment.
Can't wait not to do that. Woohoo!
You're getting better at that. Woohoo!
Yeah, but that was crotchety still.
No, it wasn't. It's a movement in the right direction. I think you're overplaying the crotchetiness. It's there. It's not pervasive. Hey, you got me to say woohoo.
I'll add that to my list of things to go woohoo about. Well, at least I'm not as crotchety as the guy I take my laundry to. He always pushes the dry cleaning over washing. That's silk, dry clean. $4 for dry cleaning, $2 to wash. No wonder he's pushing the dry cleaning. Meanwhile, it was cotton. If he doesn't know cotton when he sees it, who does?
How did you handle it?
I don't know. I usually take his crotchetiness personally. Maybe he's picking up on my crotchetiness.
I doubt that.
Yeah, well, I wish he'd pick up on the message he wraps his hangers with. The paper wrappers over each hanger say a big thank you with a heart. I wish he gave me the heartfelt thank you and his hangers ignored me. Oh, and this gets me crotchety. At least my cleaner. Does this happen to you? Buttons the buttons you don't need buttoning on a shirt and doesn't button the buttons you do. So I wind up buttoning what was needlessly unbuttoned, collar and sleeve buttons, and unbuttoning what was needlessly buttoned, the bottom buttons.
I see that, Andy, because I go to dry cleaners and I don't get caught up in the minutia of things that I can't control.
Well, why should they control it? They should be catering to us. And they should. Not just their laundry hangers or their store signs. Thanks for shopping with us. Come back soon. Next to the morose employees, they should make the signs less friendly than the employees. Shopping bags for your face. At least then the people who work there would seem chipper by comparison.
Maybe the employees are doing the best they can, just like you're doing the best you can.
Well, I always thank them, and they always rarely thank me. Oh, that sounded crotchety.
That's okay. Get it all out, Andy. It's a good release.
You know what? I can't say I blame some of the employees, especially the older ones, for looking as crotchety as I feel. They have to listen to that drugstore or supermarket music all day long. The same simplistic lyrics, same interchangeably generic, auto-tuned, forgettable fluff.
You don't own the store, Andy. Their store, their music.
What happened to the customer is always right? At least they're getting paid to listen. They couldn't pay me to listen to that stuff. Meanwhile, I got to pay them.
You have other options.
Like what? Wearing noise-canceling headphones?
What about listening to your kind of music over earbuds as you shop?
This time you're wrong, AI Dr. K. How'd he slip back in? And join all the other earpod people cut off from their surroundings? Forget it.
Why are you focusing on the music instead of whatever else is around you? People, the colors of the store, items you're going to purchase, your hope for the future.
Okay, here's one. People who keep using the same musical licks get sued for copyright infringement. How's that for a future hope? Dr. K, the minute I walk into these places, I feel depressed or disenfranchised. I mean, they sell stuff to all ages in the store, don't they?
Yes.
Well, why don't we all get a vote on the music they play?
I don't think it's a democratic institution, Andy.
Maybe stores are thinking, here's the music that'll make the ones with the most money, boomers, miserable. When they're miserable, they buy lots of stuff to feel better before the music drives them out of there, leaving behind younger, more attractive demos enjoying the music and buying stuff, which attracts other younger demos to join them, enjoy the music, and buy stuff. Damn it. There's that get off my lawn guy again.
I like how you refer to him, kind of as a separate entity, which may, Andy, speak to the fact you're really not that guy.
Actually, I'm not. It's not even my lawn. I'm more like the get off my landlord's lawn guy.
Well, if you're outside of your apartment, whether it's on your lawn or your landlord's lawn, at least that's a step in the right direction.
You're always encouraging me to go out. But I can play jazz or Gershwin or Ella as I order on Amazon. I can find where everything is on Amazon. In a Walgreens or Rite Aid, I got to go on a hunting expedition to stumble upon where stuff is. Nobody's on the floor. I wind up asking a cashier. Her phone rings. Excuse me, while I talk to the customer who stayed home and pushed 7 digits to reach me. Why am I the person who bothered to show up in second position?
Okay, Andy, if you'd like to be less crotchety, I am encouraging you to go out more, out of your own head. Those little internal voices that question the world around you. Sometimes they can be helpful, but other times they can be holding you back from accepting what is in a way that'll leave you feeling more at peace, less frustrated by the things you can't change.
Where are those noise-canceling headphones when I need them? Well, I won't thank you for that therapy session, but the hanger I got from my cleaners says thank you.
Well, you won't thank me, and you're not going to blast me either, so I'll take that as a win.
You know, there is a hidden benefit from entering the crotchety stage of life.
What's that, Andy?
It's the giving up phase of life. The letting go of endless chases for the brass ring. Which would have been better, brass or gold?
I think brass is the traditional.
How many times have we heard people at award shows or judges on reality shows, follow your dreams, keep dreaming. Yeah, keep dreaming.
I think it is important to follow your dreams, regardless of your life situation. Doesn't mean you're going to actualize them, but there's something about the process that makes it meaningful. Everything I know about success and ideas, inspiration is important, but perspiration is what really makes it happen.
Oh, said you and Thomas Edison.
Are you saying that another Dr. K unoriginal thought ripping off other people from history?
Yeah, but at least he came up with a light bulb. my head never came up with a light bulb in the way of a new idea as a result of your therapy, but nor have you come up with anything to do with electricity. So I think Edison was probably a poor analogy to use.
Well, this therapy we've had in our multiple sessions, there's been an electricity to it at times.
Yeah, you're right. There has been electricity because I've been shocked when you've actually come up with good advice. Yeah. Remember that song, Dream, 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 Dream?
Yeah, by the Everly Brothers, Bill and Don.
Yeah. Now mine is give up, give up, give up. You're in for a lot fewer disappointments, you know? Giving up is a dream all of us can realize.
I think you're introducing a not insignificant part to dreams, which you can't be captivated by them. You can't overplay them. There's got to be a reality component to it. It's balancing both sides.
Well, we have a dream guest we'll be visiting with later, who today of all days has his work cut out for him. More like a bad dream for him.
Oh.
He's of all things a motivational speaker and author of the new book, Gusto. Mario will be joining us.
I am really looking forward to hearing from him.
Yeah, if there's one thing society needs, it's another motivational speaker.
You don't sound all that convinced, Andy.
Woohoo! If there's one thing society needs.
I welcome other approaches to allow any other possibilities to motivate you, Andy.
Well, I'm sorry I've sounded so grumpy today, Scott. I think we should revisit a segment we haven't done since the first episode of the Neurotic Vaccine to help make all of us, as you mentioned earlier, more at peace.
I like that, Andy.
It's time for Things whereby an already annoying phenomenon is temporarily made even more annoying, giving us a newfound appreciation for how well off we were to begin with.
I like to think our therapy might have helped you toward that newfound appreciation.
Well, if that brings you comfort, it was more like your therapy session. I mentioned how annoying the unwanted soundtrack to my life has become in stores where I have no say.
Yeah.
Well, what if the generic, forgettable fluff they foist upon us wasn't forgettable enough? What if it was an earworm you desperately wanted to get out of your head but couldn't? Oh, no. This is like the Jaws theme. Boom, boom, boom. It couldn't be. Oh, no! Aren't you shoppers as bothered by this as I am? What is with you zombies?
You don't want to unfairly label a group of people you don't even know.
Could somebody tell me where the earplugs are? I can't figure out where anything is around here. Excuse me, do you carry earplugs? Oh, she's on the phone. Caller pushes 7 digits. I drive 7 miles to get here. Oh, thank God it stopped. Oh, no! What about noise-canceling headphones? Does the store carry noise-canceling headphones? Before we move on from annoying music, here's something that dawned on me that really made me crotchety. That's Sinatra Anthem, A Very Good Year, written by Irvin Drake, 1961.
Love that song.
You remember how the final stanza begins? After when I was 35?
Something like, and now the days grow short?
Yeah. I'm in the autumn of the year after 35? That makes me old enough to sing the age stanzas twice. When I was 17 years older than 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for mercenary girls who'd only look at me if I had money. They didn't care if I was funny. It made me feel blue when I was 52. When I was 21 years older than 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for imaginary girls who'd want something to do with me versus real ones who were through with me. My love life was in a fix when I was 56. When I was 35 years older than 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for being ghosted by women on a dating site page. Even after I shaved 6 years off my age to simulate greater longevity when I was 70. And now the days grow short. There's an understatement. I'm in the autumn of the years, more like winter solstice. And now I think of my life as real cheap wine in a brown paper bag. The kind that makes you gag and chase it with a beer. It was a very good year. Well, before we visit with motivational speaker Mario, as I'd mentioned in therapy, since my bucket list largely consists of trying not to kick it, what better way to help us all re-examine and bring new meaning to that pressing issue of life than through the artistry of theater? Notice I didn't include the artistry of your therapy.
That's okay, Andy.
It's time once again for Neurotica Theater. Ready to add a leading role to your acting reel, Scott?
I'm ready, Andy.
Scott and acting reel in the same sentence. There's a first. I'll be playing the patient, Harold Raymond, and playing the part of Dr. Gephardt is Scott DePoint. The patient nervously anticipates bad news as a grim Dr. Gephardt enters.
Hello, Mr. Raymond.
Hello.
We examine your ultrasound, blood tests, CT scan,
Oh, God.
MRI scan. I'm afraid I have bad news.
Oh, God.
Your internal organs and genetic code have generated an extremely rare condition. It's rarer than extremely rare. It's never been documented before. You're going to live forever.
Huh?
I'm sorry, Mr. Raymond.
Sorry? Sorry? I can't believe it. I'm on cloud 9, 10, 12.
You're probably in shock. Is there anyone in your family who could drive you home?
Are you kidding? I could fly home without a plane.
Life is precious, Mr.
But
Raymond.
not as precious as you, Doctor, or the mother who gave birth to you.
When time is short. But in your case, unless of course you get hit by a bus, you'll have hundreds and hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands and numbers of years far too big to even comprehend.
Uh-huh.
Meals you have to cook, tax returns you'll have to complete, jobs you'll need in order to maintain a limitless lifespan with ever-spiraling inflation, relationships that come and go, and come and go, and come and go.
Come and go, yeah, get it.
Funerals for your friends and relatives, and great to the thousandth power descendants, disenfranchisement from centuries of popular culture that no longer speaks to you.
You think there'll still be buses?
In the distant future, they could be technically advanced enough to not permeate skin.
I'd like a second opinion.
I made it a point to receive corroboration from the most respected geneticist in the world.
I'd like a third opinion.
Your condition is so unusual, I ran it by every geneticist in the world.
So no opinions left?
No opinions left.
I got a bus to catch. Joining us now is a self-described entrepreneur, teacher, coach, motivational speaker, and author of the new book, Gusto, How to Dream It, Think It, and Hopefully Attain It. And his name is Mario.
That's Mario.
I'm sorry, Mario.
First of all, I am so excited about being here. I mean, when you folks gave me the opportunity to be at this show, I got to tell you, I dreamt at one time in my life that I was going to be on a computer internet radio show. I didn't sleep all night. I mean, I can't believe I'm here.
Wow.
No, I really can't believe I'm here.
Oh, this is a lot of enthusiasm in this room.
And you know what? I'm here.
You dream big.
Well, I certainly do.
You actually dreamt of this.
I did.
Usually dreams are on a higher scale, Mario.
Any dream.
Is it Mario or Mario?
Mario.
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 Well, you have your out in your title. Gusto, how to hopefully attain it? What is that, your little clause in case people find out you can't attain it? They want to sue you?
Let me start with this.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything starts with an idea. You have an idea, a dream, a visualization, and then you have to have a prescribed plan, a goal. Now, to reach this, so you're not going aimlessly, you have to have good work habits. You have to have perseverance, tenacity, supreme optimism. Every neuron, every fiber, every capillary has to be joined, has to be congruent in your mind and your body and your will. You have to be connected, and you have to have an indomitable
Have you filled out your will yet? I think your blood pressure is
not yet.
Implying your lifespan is not going to be that long.
Now, let me answer your question, Andy.
Forgot my question.
It's been so long ago since I've been talking here, huh? There are no guarantees. But
there you go. Already.
Andy,
he's backing off from his promise.
No, there are no guarantees in life. You can't fortune tell, but this is what I say. You owe it to yourself to try. And during that journey...
No. We owe it to your publishers, 1995, to try. Gusto, how to hopefully attain it, unless you can't.
Andy, that's a good price, too. Now, with the information you get in those 10 chapters, that's a good price.
Now, Andy, I'd like to comment that he's not only enthusiastic, he's ethical. He's not promising
He's promising a vision. If you don't have a seeing eye dog, you have a vision. What's the big deal?
If you follow the steps, you will succeed.
Why, you've read the book?
Of course I've read the book.
Well, I don't see you succeed.
Oh, come on now.
Andy, the book is a syllabus. I'm just a voice in the wind. I'm just a cloud of air. People need encouragement.
You are full of hot air.
Andy, people need encouragement. Andy, who encourages you? Besides Dr. K here. Have you had encouragement in your life? And would you be better off if you had encouragement?
Well, if somebody had encouraged me not to show up tonight, I would be better off.
Andy, in the book.
Cheer down, Mario.
Mario. In the book, my goal was to give people pragmatic information, having good work habits, being aware, being alive, being connected, keeping your own counsel. You know, Andy.
Well, what the hell does that mean, keeping your own counsel?
In life, oftentimes, all of us are taken away from our focus by listening to other people, by listening to family members, by listening to friends, and invariably
by listening to therapists.
They could. A good therapist, I imagine,
or, well, never mind.
Would help you, would be...
That would assume he listens to me.
Anyway, these ideas are paramount for a person's growth and finding their vision and trying to find happiness and destiny. And you know what? It's not 3 strikes and you're out. Andy, you know what? You can keep swinging. And the only person counting is
you. Well, you have 3 strikes, and you have a lot of balls, too.
Oh, boy. I kind of feel like in 7th grade when Carol Pancava broke up with me. Whew.
What, is this turning into his therapy session?
Andy, what do you think of what Mario's been saying so far?
Is it Mario or Mario?
Mario.
I don't know. I mean, who are you?
Uh-oh. Don't get upset. I'm just wondering.
Okay.
Who are you?
Or anybody like you, in all sincerity, with all due respect, to tell me how to live my life. I mean, in a way, aren't you the personification of those who can't do, teach? Because if you would have followed this advice, and it was advice that worked, wouldn't you have been further along than coming on our nickel and dime show? I mean, the funny thing is, you can't even teach, because I haven't learned a thing tonight.
Oh, boy. You mean, Andy, I haven't motivated you at all?
Oh, you motivated me to swear off reading.
Andy, does that mean you don't want a signed copy of the book?
Well, maybe I can sell it on eBay.
Andy, I'm an average guy. I'm an average guy with a big dream. And I believe you got to have a lot of passion. And I believe fervently in that passion. And, the great Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up.
Yeah, he was talking about the fight against fanatics. So I'll keep that in mind right now.
It applies to a lot of different areas, Andy. I can tell from my own practice with my patients. They come in, they're miserable, their lives are shredded. Sometimes they're unemployed. They need to have a vision. I teach them skills to get a job. They get a job. They're really happy. Totally verifying the accuracy of what Mario is saying. We need to have a dream, and we need to do practical things to make that dream happen. And also, we're not a five and dime show here. A lot of famous people have been on the show.
Yeah, but we don't need somebody like Mario. Mario?
Do you like Mario better, Andy?
He doesn't even know what his name is.
Do you like? Does that sound better, Mario?
Mario is fine. We love that name.
I mean, I've had Mario for 47 years.
All right, Mario.
Oh, it's good. I'm starting to...
Let us have our visions. Let us do our thing. Let us have our dreams. But why do we have to pay $19.95 to have you tell us to have those visions? I think it's a bit of a sham, and you're kind of taking advantage. You seem like a nice guy, but we don't need another motivational speaker who, as I heard you say before, couldn't even motivate himself to believe he's here.
Whoa.
Everything okay, Mario?
I don't know what to say. I feel like a cloud just came over me. A dark cloud.
Oh, good.
Mario, don't let him get to you. Everything you said was right. You made a lot of sense tonight.
I don't think he likes me.
He's just in his crotchety mode.
This was not in the dream, let me tell
Don't
you.
let this guy get to you. Everything you said was right, accurate. It was pointed. It was inspirational. Mario.
I think it's Mario. If you enjoyed this episode, it's free to subscribe and give us a follow on X at Andy G. Cowan. Well, once again, we want to thank Michael Smerconish, Marilu Henner, Fred Stoller, non-neurotic Nell, Mario, and most importantly, you, our coveted listeners, without whom I'd covet curling up in a fetal position.
There's that rebirth I was talking about.
This time, I'm skipping puberty.
Ha 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 ha.
Come visit andycowan.net for a way to reach out and get my big book, Banging My Head Against the Wall, A Comedy Writer's Guide to Seeing Stars, forward by Jay Leno, available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Black Rose Writing, and at the National Comedy Center in Lucille Ball's hometown, Jamestown, New York. Hitchin' on the Highway of Life, opening theme by yours truly, instrumental performance by Marty Rifkin, the full tune also available on Amazon, musical stingers by Steve Crum, Lazy Day closing theme by the Bob Mincer Big Band.
For your mental wellness, you can reach me at drscottk@psysolutions.net.
Until next session, I'm Andy Cowan.
And I'm Dr. Scott Kapoyan.
The real Dr. K.
For now, I see our time is up.